Chapter 239. Uchiha. Mizuki pondered. Is he a genius who has already opened his eyes? No. Anko said gloomily, but that kid's body flicker jutsu is too powerful. It's obviously just a D-class ninjutsu, but in his hands it feels more powerful than a C-class ninjutsu. Kurenai was a little surprised. Although the level of ninjutsu only represents the difficulty of practice, most of the time it actually reflects the strength of the ninjutsu. It's really amazing to be able to do this. Garashi chuckled softly. The Uchiha are indeed a clan full of geniuses. What's more annoying is that the kid seems to want to take over the position of Sandaime from me. Anko said angrily. Shizun blinked. Aren't you about to graduate? It's okay to give him the position, right? Anko said frantically, but now many people are saying that the kid is going to challenge me. If I graduate now, doesn't it mean that I am afraid of him? Excuse me. Guy raised his right hand weakly and asked, why is the president of the psychology club a battle? Shouldn't it be a debate? Oh. Anko smiled guiltily. Of course, it's because I used this method to persuade others to let me be the president. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched wildly, and they seemed to be unable to look at the word persuade directly. In short, I will never give up. Anko said firmly, I must defend the dignity of the Sandaime. However, her bold speech did not get a response. Everyone completely ignored her and began to discuss among themselves. Kai, do you think I should take out the explosive blade spray for some fresh air? I don't think putting it in the scroll is conducive to cultivating my feelings for it. Asma said with a heavy face. I understand that you want to show off, but if you take such a dangerous weapon into a place where students gather, I think you will be kicked out by the teachers. Guy said earnestly. Kurenai hesitated and asked, Garashi, do you think we should bring some gifts when we see sensei? Shizun also nodded. Yes, Garashi, wouldn't it be too unreasonable for us to go empty-handed? Yes, I should bring some gifts, but too expensive gifts will easily attract gossip. Garashi snapped his fingers. Yagami, sensei likes to collect ninja tools, so it's better to give Hanzo's scythe to him, at least it has some value. At least give me a response. Seeing that everyone ignored her, Red Bean screamed madly. Then she looked at Shueimu touched. Senior brother Shueimu, you're the best. You're willing to listen to me. Mizuki's cold face barely squeezed out a smile. Senior apprentice brother is so good to you, shouldn't you introduce me to Uchiha Shursui? Red Bean, $#. Amidst Red Bean's soft complaints, everyone arrived at the back of the mountain. It was still the same small forest as before, but it was much more lively than before. In addition to the students, teachers, parents, and some villagers who came because of the fame also participated. Seeing this scene, Asma couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, it's actually so much more lively than before. Red Bean puffed out her chest proudly. This is the result of my hard work. Guy excitedly asked, has my youthful hot-blooded vitality club become a super club? Red Bean looked at him sympathetically. That club was closed because of its small number of members, or because there was no one at all? Guy felt like he was struck by lightning. How could this be? They walked all the way to the center of the forest and saw many people gathered in a circle, exclaiming from time to time. Amazing, he won again. Worthy of the legendary gambling monster, Sly Fukusama. This old man is also very powerful. Their scores are very close, we can only see the last game. The few of them looked at each other and moved closer with strange looks in their eyes. In the middle of the field was a puzzle game called Mahjong, invented by Garashi. Two of them had very low scores, obviously they were going to lose, but the other two were very close and it was possible for either of them to win. Seeing this, Asma lowered his voice and asked, the sister who used the transformation jutsu is obviously Shina Kushina-san, right? I'm very familiar with this game. Shizun whispered, isn't that 2 against 1? Isn't it a bit too much to bully the old man like this? Red Bean laughed softly, don't you know what kind of level the QB is? It's obviously 1 + 1 less than 1. And you don't have to fight for the old man. Garashi laughed, Elder Danzo is not a person who will suffer a loss. Elder Danzo? I've played with Elder Danzo several times and I'm quite familiar with his chakra. The surrounding was very noisy, and most people wouldn't be able to hear their whispered conversation. However, the two people who were playing the game were not among them. After hearing this voice, both of them froze and stared at each other, and the atmosphere became inexplicably awkward. Aha, Elder Danzo is really good. Humph, your QB is not bad either. The two of them made an agreement not to reveal each other's identities, and then continued to play as if nothing had happened. However, both of their minds were no longer on this matter. After Shina Kushina won the game and became the champion, Danzo hurriedly packed up his things and left. But before he could take a few steps, he was stopped by Garashi. "Elder Danzo, shouldn't you be stationed at the camp now?" Garashi asked with a puzzled look. "Yes. Shouldn't I be at the camp?" Danzo asked blankly. "Everyone? Ahem, actually it's like this," Danzo said with his hands behind his back. "This old man is thinking about the game between the Rock Crypsis and Woodleaf, but I have no idea, so I reluctantly tried a new path. For Woodleaf, it's worth sacrificing this old man's precious time." Asuma muttered in a low voice, "You sound so righteous when you say that you're cheating. As expected of you." Danzo's face stiffened. Did this bastard think he couldn't hear him? Garashi didn't point it out but smiled and said, "Elder Danzo, you don't have to work too hard." At this time, Shina Kushina came out from the crowd and ruffled Garashi's hair. "You really made me sad, you didn't even come to see me when you came back." Garashi said helplessly, "I went yesterday but I couldn't find you, Shina Kushina Nasen." Shina Kushina's smile froze. For today's game, she seemed to have found some friends to practice. Unfortunately, the Uchiha were too strict, and she didn't succeed in getting her out. "Ah, that's not important." Shina Kushina laughed twice and then said seriously, "The important thing is that Kurama is angry now, and he can't stand people saying that he doesn't know how to play." Chapter 240. "It's a new game," said Shushi with a smile. Shina Kushina said angrily, "Kurama said that it's about the dignity of the bijou. It said that if you look down on it, it's going to destroy the world." Danzo, who didn't know about the QB situation, suddenly became nervous. What? Is the monster going to break the seal? However, both of them ignored him. "3, no more than that." "A deal." Guy muttered to himself, "Is the dignity of the QB only worth 3 games? Danzo's eyes widened. "It's not going to destroy the world?" Shina Kushina squinted her eyes. "Destroying the world is not as fun as playing games." "That's true," Danzo said subconsciously, but seeing the strange look in everyone's eyes, he quickly changed his words. "I mean, destroying the world is too bad." On the side, Asuma whispered. Brother Minato was worried that Shina Kushina-nisan would be bored alone in the village, but now it seems that it's not the case at all. Shina Kushina said confidently, "If I'm not bored, why would I use transformation jutsu to participate in the competition?" Maybe because her voice was a little louder, it attracted the attention of the surrounding people. "Sly Fox Sama is here. Gambling Freak Sama, please teach me the art of gambling." Seeing a group of people gathered around, Shina Kushina was scared and ran away. "I'll go first, see you later." Afraid that he would follow in Shina Kushina's footsteps, Danzo also quickly ran away. For a while the crowd ran back and forth and the scene was chaotic. Asuma looked at Anko and teased, "Aren't you the second-generation leader? Why hasn't anyone come after so long?" This, of course, is because Anko's heart was filled with hatred. Couldn't those bastards see her? Fortunately, the heavens seemed to hear her prayer. The next moment, someone ran over with excitement. Seeing this, Anko immediately jumped up. "See, I'm here." Asuma looked at the other person suspiciously. Was this guy really so excited because of Anko? According to his years of experience, being around Garashi will trigger the passive aura of presence minus 999, 100%. Anko waved her hand reservedly. "Don't be so excited, I'm not finished." Whoosh. The man rushed past her like a gust of wind and ran up to Shushi excitedly. "You must be Shushi-senpai." Seeing Red Bean in a mess in the wind, Asuma patted her shoulder sympathetically. "Don't worry about it. You'll get used to it." Shushi smiled and asked, "Junior, who are you?" "My name is Irika Kaino." Irika said excitedly, "My dream is to become an excellent ninja like you. Also, my parents were saved on the battlefield because of the medical scrolls developed by you, senior." Hearing Irika's voice, many students of the Ninja Academy looked over. "Is that Garashi-senpai who graduated 3 years ago? I heard that Garashi-senpai is the central figure of the Shinobi World War. He turned the war around by himself. Amazing. It is said that many Jonin were killed by senpai. Not only Jonin, even Kage from Rock Crypsis village was not senpai's opponent. There have been many powerful ninjas in the ninja school such as Sannin, Woodleaf and White Fang, but these ninjas are too far away from them. They are far less shocking than Garashi, who graduated not long ago. The performance of other ninjas in the war is far less dazzling than Garashi. In addition, the teachers in the school always like to use Garashi as an example, saying how much worse they are compared to Garashi, saying that they are the worst class he has ever taught. In this case, it is difficult for them not to remember Garashi. Seeing that Garashi was about to be surrounded by the crowd, a stern voice came from behind them. What are you all doing here? If you don't want to participate in the school festival, go back to class. It just so happens that Naruto-sama has made a new interpretation of the Will of Fire series. Before he could finish his words, the group of students fled in panic as if their lives depended on it. Yagami-senpai, don't be impulsive. We're leaving. Seeing so many people disappear without a trace in a short time, Asuma muttered to himself, I didn't expect the old man's book to have such an effect. Yagami shook his head. These little guys said that they want to become ninjas like Garashi, but after hearing the method, they ran away faster than anyone else. Irika asked excitedly as if he had received a peerless secret book. Yagami-senpai, as long as you comprehend the Will of Fire, you can become an excellent ninja like senpai? Of course. Saint encouraged. You see, the first Hokage, the second Hokage, and the third Hokage, they were all excellent ninjas who comprehended the Will of Fire, so they became Hokage. Irika said excitedly, I understand. Even if those books are obscure and difficult to understand, I will definitely memorize them and understand them. Yagami was pleased. Very good, that's the kind of determination you need. Asuma looked at Yagami in shock. Lying to a child like this, doesn't Yagami-senpai's conscience hurt? However, looking at the blazing light in Yagami's eyes, Asuma panicked. Yagami-senpai wouldn't really think like this, would he? So scary. Irika is broken, I can't play with him in the future. Seeing Irika exuding a terrible aura, Anko quietly stood away from him. Just as Anko was thinking this, from the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of an Uchiha boy walking towards her aggressively. Uchiha Shursui. This bastard is finally going to make a move? Anko took a deep breath and stepped forward in her best state. Come on. Don't think that just because you are young. Before she could finish her words, the previous incident with Irika happened again. Shursui walked straight past her and came in front of Garashi. Garashi-san, can I ask you a question? Of course. Shushi smiled faintly, but in his heart he was thinking. Regarding Shursui and Itachi, it depends on their standpoint. If he was a member of the Uchiha clan, he would naturally find a way to kill the traitor quickly. But as a member of the Naruto clan, he is the one who benefits from it. Looking at it this way, it seems that he shouldn't try to change their minds. But in fact, they can betray their clan today because of the narrowness of their clan, and tomorrow they may betray the Woodleaf clan because of the narrowness of their clan, and they may even betray the entire shinobi world because of the narrowness of their clan. So, both of them have to be trained in the future. Garashi thought secretly. As for the training method, of course, it is to let Sandaime use the Will of Fire to cleanse their souls. And it has to be the super limited version of the Will of Fire. Shursui, who didn't know Garashi's sinister intentions, asked doubtfully at this moment, can people really understand each other? Garashi was silent for a moment and shook his head slightly. I don't know. Shursui was surprised. How can that be? You are the one who founded the Psychology Society. I have read the sayings left by the predecessors, and it has inspired me a lot. The original intention of the Psychology Society is to observe and analyze people's hearts, so that people can have a place to release their inner pressure and pain. Garashi said in a deep voice, but the human heart is the simplest and most complex thing in the world. No one can fully understand it, so I can't give you a definite answer. Shursui looked a little depressed. Is that so? But I know one thing, if you want others to understand you, you have to try to understand others first. Garashi smiled as warm as the sun. It's like spreading sunshine into the heart of others. You have to have sunshine in your heart first. Chapter 241. Do I need sunshine in my heart? Shursui muttered to himself. After a while, he bowed with a firm look in his eyes. Thank you for your guidance. I think I understand now. Seeing that Shursui was about to turn and leave, Anko quickly stopped him. You bastard, didn't you say you wanted to challenge me? There's no need for that now. What? Shursui smiled apologetically. I wanted to be the president just to ask for guidance from Garashi Sr. Since I've already asked for guidance, there's no need for me to challenge you. Oh, so that's the case. Anko was stunned at first, then she shouted angrily, what do you mean? Do you think you can win against me? Of course it's not a sure win. That's more like it. Just as Anko was feeling a little comforted, she heard that bastard say in an infuriating tone, at most, I have a 98% chance of winning. Silence. Anko's small chest heaved up and down. After a moment of silence, she exploded. Damn brat, I'm going to kill you. Seeing that Anko was standing in front of him, Shursui said helplessly, Senpai, stop fooling around. Anko put her hands on her hips. Now, immediately fight with me. Must it be like this? Shursui sighed. It's too late to be afraid now. Anko raised her head and said to Shursui with her nostrils. Then let's do it here. I'm in a hurry, Shursui said seriously. Damn it, you're saying such infuriating words again. Anko said unhappily. Seeing that the two of them were about to fight, Asuma muttered, in a hurry? Why does it feel like Kakashi challenged Garashi back then? Are you ready? I'm going. Latent Shadow Snake. Magic Bubble. The next moment Anko was immersed in it. Hee Anko meatballs, glutinous rice cake. Seeing this, Asuma couldn't bear to look and covered his eyes. She really ended up like Kakashi, killed by an illusion. Red also shook her head helplessly. No wonder he said that he has a 98% chance of winning. It turns out that he has already figured out Red Bean's weakness. But he is really powerful. Shizen said in surprise. He obviously hasn't opened his Sharingan, but his Genjutsu is already so strong. Worthy of being the strongest Genjutsu ninja in the future. Garashi secretly exclaimed, with such talent, it's a pity that he's not a tool. The next day at Shinakushina's house. 6, I want 6. Give me 6. 6 o'clock, I've reached the finish line. 3 o'clock, I've also reached the finish line. No way Shinakushina isn't, you're still at the starting point. Everyone surrounded the flying chessboard and watched as Shinakushina struggled to hold back her laughter. Shinakushina said angrily, this rule is too unreasonable. Why can't I take off if I roll 6? Kurama and Rokubi are not compatible. It must be because of its bad luck that I can't roll 6. There was a lot of furniture in the originally empty sealed space. A little orange fox was lying on the sofa with its belly exposed. It rubbed its belly with a look of disdain. It's obviously your bad luck. Don't look for excuses. It's my turn now. I don't believe that a fox like you can take off. At this time, two figures suddenly appeared in the room. Everyone was alert and relaxed after seeing who it was. Kakashi Minato-san, you're back. Looking at the two travel-worn people, Shinakushina scolded, is it necessary to be in such a hurry? Using Flying Thunder God to hurry up. Actually, it's mainly to hide. Minato shook his head helplessly. If we were seen on the road, it might make the guy hiding in the dark more vigilant. Shinakushina frowned. In other words, you didn't find that bastard this time? Minato sighed. The smell has completely dissipated. Rin asked worriedly, then what should we do? Don't worry, maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Kakashi comforted in turn, if he really wanted to harm me, he would have done it long ago. Asuma said, could it be that we were wrong and it was actually someone else who put the puppet curse on Kakashi? Garashi shook his head slightly. I went to ask Naruto-sama the day before yesterday, and according to the information I received, I'm even more certain that it was Hiriko who put the puppet curse on him. Minato asked, what information? It's the reason why Hiriko defected, because the impact was too bad so the news was blocked. Garashi said in a deep voice, in order to change his talent, he killed ninjas from enemy villages and even from the same village, and conducted human experiments on them, and the content of his experiments was the transplantation of Kekkei Genkai. Transplantation of Kekkei Genkai? Minato exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. It seems that he really is eyeing Kakashi's Sharingan. Shushi nodded slightly. Considering this point, he didn't directly attack Kakashi. Instead, he chose to use the puppet jutsu. Most likely, he used Kakashi as a vessel to nourish his Sharingan. He planned to use the puppet jutsu to recover the Sharingan at the right time. Hearing Garashi's analysis, Shinakushina was entangled. Then what should we do? Give up the Sharingan? This is a gift from the bordered soil, I don't want to give it up. Kakashi said apologetically, I'm sorry to trouble you, let me face it alone. What are you talking about? Do you want to be beaten? Shinakushina clenched her fists, exuding a terrible aura. Kakashi instinctively shivered. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Shinakushina nodded with satisfaction. That's right. Isn't it just a puppet curse? I have a way. While everyone was thinking hard, Guy looked at Kakashi with passion. As long as Kakashi eats, lives and sleeps with me in the future, once he gets sick, I can just knock him out directly, right? Asuma's mouth twitched. What about going to the bathroom and taking a bath? Guy raised the corner of his mouth and gave a thumbs up. Of course, together. The atmosphere suddenly became anxious. Kakashi's mouth twitched. I'd rather be caught than do this. Guy sighed. You didn't say anything about my sacrifice. Kakashi, you're too willful. Shizun seemed to get inspiration. I also thought of it, just like the battle between Garashi and Yunin Yuki in the Chunin exam. When the seal is unlocked, we can add a few more seals on top of their seals. We can add a chain technique to Kakashi's puppet curse. Once the puppet curse is activated, the triggered chain technique will cut off all the nerves in Kakashi's body, making it impossible for him to move freely. Cut off all the nerves? Kakashi's body trembled. Are you here to help me or to mess with me? Isn't that too cruel? Kakashi subconsciously wanted to nod, but then he heard Kurenai say eagerly, we can change the trigger technique to Genjutsu. Let Kakashi keep repeating the process of bordered soil's death. Maybe he can break the puppet curse by himself in anger. Kakashi. Chapter 242. Although it's a joke, it's undeniable that these methods do have some effect. Garashi looked at Kakashi with a smile. Do you want to try it? Kakashi thought about it very seriously. Indeed, everyone put forward these ideas for his own good. In order to keep the gift that bordered soil gave him, Kakashi gritted his teeth and glanced at the three of them hesitantly, and finally stopped at Guy. Then, let's do it according to Guy's proposal. Guy was moved when he saw this. In order to be worthy of this trust, I will definitely protect you. Kakashi felt a chill and soon regretted it in his heart. In particular, Asuma added fuel to the fire and patted him on the shoulder with a sympathetic look. Boys must protect themselves outside. Kakashi? Minato smiled and said, actually, I also have an idea. Shinakushina, what you said before gave me inspiration. What I said? Shinakushina recalled for a moment and asked eagerly, did you say to beat Kakashi? Kakashi, Sigma, degree, what's wrong with today? Why does it feel like everyone is plotting to kill him? Minato was a little dumbfounded, not this sentence. Then give up the Sharingan? Shinakushina suddenly realized, first beat Kakashi and then after knocking him out, dig out his eyes. Kakashi trembled, this is too cruel. I think Minato-san's meaning should be pretended to be in front of that traitorous ninja, right? Garashi said from the side. Minato said helplessly, that's what I think. But that guy is not an idiot, how could he? Asuma said, I also understand you mean to let the Uchiha clan return the lost eyes? Listening to Asuma's words, everyone remembered this. The Uchiha clan didn't set up a caged bird like the Hyuga clan, but it doesn't mean that they don't attach importance to their own Kekkei Genkai. On the contrary, the more ancient a clan was, the more they valued the purity of their bloodline. The reason why they didn't force the issue was mostly because of the awkward situation of the Uchiha and the status of Minato and Garashi. Without these 2 points, Kakashi's eyes might have been dug out long ago. Minato nodded. From the standpoint of the Uchiha clan, it's not unexpected for them to ask for the Sharingan. If Hiriko learns of this news, it's very likely that he will take the initiative to come to the Uchiha clan in order to retrieve the Sharingan in advance. But there's still one more problem. What if Hiriko doesn't receive the news, or the information isn't updated in time? Asuma hesitated. Then what should we do? If I don't dig my eyes out, won't I be exposed? That's simple. We just need clan leader Fugaku to cooperate with us to put on a show, Garashi muttered. Minato asked, how? According to normal development, the two of us should come forward to stop it, but after all, this is related to the Uchiha clan's Kekkei Genkai, so it's not good for us to intervene too much, and the Uchiha clan also doesn't want to push it too far. Garashi analyzed, in order to give both sides a way out, clan leader Fugaku can put forward conditions at the right time and let Kakashi prove that he won't disgrace the reputation of the Sharingan. I understand. Minato pondered, you mean that we should make an agreement on the surface to let Kakashi prove his worth on the battlefield? Yes, the name of a war hero won't be a disgrace to the Sharingan. Garashi said with a smile. This way, on the one hand, Hiriko will have more time to collect information, and on the other hand, clan leader Fugaku won't have to work so hard to suppress the opposition in the clan. It's indeed a good idea. Minato agreed, even if Hiriko is too slow, we can use this agreement to explain that Kakashi's eyes weren't dug out, so he won't be suspicious. Everyone nodded secretly, this method is indeed more reliable. The only problem is Kakashi. Minato said solemnly, can you do it? Prove your worth. Kakashi took a deep breath, and suddenly the words of Grandma Bordered Soil flashed in his mind. I will do it, I who carry the dream of bordered soil, am no longer fighting alone. Seeing Kakashi's fighting spirit for the first time since the death of bordered soil, Minato nodded with relief. Yes, you are not fighting alone. However, if in the end you still can't lure Hirako out. At this time, Garashi patted Kakashi's shoulder with a smile. You should be prepared to love Guy for the rest of your life. Kakashi shuddered and subconsciously looked at Guy. This is youth. In order to protect my companions, I'm burning. Seeing Kakashi looking at him, Guy gave him a thumbs up with tears streaming down his face and shouted, Kakashi, let's work together in the future. Thinking of a nightmarish scene, Kakashi prayed secretly in his heart, Bastard Hirako, you must come and catch me. Rin looked at the two with a strange expression, and finally looked at Minato and asked, Minato-sensei, when should we ask Patriarch Fugaku for help? Let's do it now, but Shueisha and I will do the rest. Minato said vigilantly, if the matter of us meeting with Patriarch Fugaku is spread out, maybe Hirako will guess that this is a trap. Rin nodded repeatedly, then what should we do now? Now of course it's time to play an exciting game of flying chess. Shina Kushina bent over and hugged Rin's shoulder. If we don't start now, Kurama will destroy the world. For the sake of world peace we should hurry up and play. Rin was a little confused, is that so? Uchiha clan Fugaku's house. I didn't expect that in addition to Shina Kushina, Elder Danzo would also have this kind of interest. Fugaku was sitting alone in his house thinking. If Mikoto didn't hear about this from Shina Kushina, he wouldn't have known that the cold and powerful Elder Danzo actually has this kind of side. Maybe I can cater to his interest and let Mikoto go? No, I have to practice hard and find an opportunity to compare notes with Elder Danzo. At this time, Fugaku suddenly saw two figures in the corner of his eyes. He looked up and saw that it was Minato and Shueisha. You are? Fugaku's voice was trembling. We came without permission, I'm really sorry. But in order to not attract attention we had to do this. Minato said apologetically, after this I will try my best to compensate. Hearing this, Fugaku was relieved. When he saw Garashi and Minato suddenly appear, Fugaku was really shocked. He thought that the village wanted to eradicate them, so they sent two of their strongest combatants to kill him. That was really scary. Chapter 243. After calming down, Fugaku smiled heartily. Minato, I don't like what you just said. It's my honor to have you here. There's no such thing as compensation. Minato said apologetically, after all Fugaku interrupted with a straight face, if you say that again you're not giving me face. Hearing Fugaku say this, Minato was no longer polite. Then we'll bother you. That's right, sit down. Fugaku greeted Garashi and Itachi. Mikoto, bring some tea and snacks. Seeing no response, Fugaku shouted again, Mikoto. Itachi poked his little head out of the room. Mom just went out. So that's it. Then you go help Dad. Seeing Fugaku ordering 3 or 4 years old child labor, Minato was even more embarrassed. No need to trouble yourself, we actually have something to ask you for help today. Ask me for help? Although there were some doubts in his heart, Fugaku didn't ask much and directly agreed, as long as it's something I can do, I will never refuse. He was worried about not having a chance to get closer to the two of them. Now that they took the initiative to come to his door, he naturally wouldn't hesitate. In short, we hope that you can recover Bordered Soil's Sharingan in the name of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku-sama. Fugaku's eyes widened. What kind of development is this? Master and apprentice breakup? Love and hate? I understand they must have heard some dissatisfaction in the clan and deliberately came to test me. Soon Fugaku thought of the answer, and said righteously, this was Bordered Soil's decision before his death. Don't tell me that the Uchiha clan doesn't even have the tolerance for the choice of a family member. Seeing that Fugaku seemed to have misunderstood, Garashi hurriedly explained from beginning to end. So that's how it is. After being surprised, Fugaku couldn't help but secretly sigh. Minato is Kakashi-sensei, but Garashi is just Kakashi-sensei, but he can be as busy as Minato for Kakashi's affairs. It's really too warm and kind. Although he can't be like Garashi, this doesn't prevent him from being happy to be friends with Garashi. Because being friends with such people was the most reassuring. At the very least, he didn't have to worry about his so-called friends disappearing faster than anyone else when he encountered difficulties. If that's the case, then there's no problem at all. Minato said gratefully, thank you so much. Fugaku smiled happily. You don't have to do that. I also want to take this opportunity to teach those disobedient people a lesson. Those diehards in the clan always said that he was too soft. This time he would let them see how hard he was. The third day, the family meeting. Most of the people who can participate in this meeting are jonin and some young chunin or elders of the clan. Even if the clan elites who were still on the battlefield weren't included, there were still more than 30 people in this room. Looking at the entire Woodleaf Empire, only the Uchiha and the Hyuga clan can hold a clan meeting of this scale. At this moment, these family elites were curiously sizing up Fugaku, who was kneeling at the head of the table. It's reasonable to say that it's not the day of the clan meeting yet, so why are they having a meeting now? Fugaku coughed lightly. Today I called everyone here mainly to discuss the ownership of the Sharingan. I think everyone has heard that Bordered Soil gave the Sharingan to Hatake Kakashi. Everyone secretly nodded. Although Bordered Soil wasn't paid attention to as the son of White Fang, and a super genius whose talent is not inferior to White Fang, Kakashi's every move is paid attention to. Therefore, the fact that he changed his Sharingan after returning from the battlefield, and he can't even close it, naturally can't be hidden from the eyes of those who are interested. However, many of them know the relationship between Kakashi and Namake's Minato. Because of the identity of the other party as a direct descendant of Naruto, except for a small number of people who can't see the situation clearly or have ulterior motives, most of them are witty enough to pretend that they didn't see it. But why did Patriarch suddenly mention this matter? When everyone was puzzled, several people who have always liked to sing a different tune from the Patriarch immediately jumped out. Of course, it is to recover the precious eye of the Patriarch. If the blood of the Uchiha is leaked out, Patriarch, you will have to take responsibility. Things that involve the bottom line of the Patriarch must not be compromised. Fugaku wasn't surprised by their attitude. Where there are people, there will be conflicts, not to mention that the Uchiha is now in an awkward situation with various factions, and there are many people who are dissatisfied with his appeasement policy. However, we can't let them destroy the current situation. Just as several people were fanning the flames, they found that the Patriarch nodded and said, I was indeed a little inconsiderate before, so I have made a request to Minato in the name of all of you to dig out Kakashi's eye and return it to the Patriarch. Suddenly the room became eerily quiet. Except for one Patriarch who didn't care, the other two were dumbfounded. Why did you make a request in their name? You, Fugaku smiled kindly. Thanks to your persuasion, I've realized my mistake. Minato Jonin should be here soon. Next, I'll have to trouble you to refute him. By the way, Soseki Jonin as well. Shushu Garashi Jonin? Commander-in-Chief is also coming? Fugaku said with a smile. Of course he will come. Hearing him say this, the quiet room was suddenly filled with the sound of gulping. Compared to Namake's Minato, most people were more afraid of the seemingly harmless Jounin Shueisha. This was especially true for those who had fought on the Western Front. Although they didn't fully understand the situation, they vaguely knew about the unforeseen event that changed the war situation a year ago. It was precisely because of this that they knew how terrifying the enemy was. Powerful, strong and scheming. Even that Tsuchikage fell into his trap, and even Danzo didn't dare to provoke him. Such a character was far more terrifying than a simple strong man. They dared to offend Minato, but they didn't dare to anger Shimizu Garashi. Thinking of this, the two quickly said, I think the wording should be a little more tactful, right? Hatake Kakashi is, after all, the son of Woodleaf's White Fang. For his father's sake, I think we can consider it again. However, the Patriarch was very dissatisfied with their attitude. Patriarch is right, we should be tough. When have we ever been afraid of others? If it was in the Humph, at that time, even if they accidentally picked up a wandering eye, they would still respectfully send it back to me. Everyone was speechless. Do you think this is still the Warring States period? Sama, times have changed. Chapter 244. Not only them, but even the clansmen who were originally on Fugaku's side felt that their Patriarch was out of his mind. Even if he was dissatisfied with the attitude of these people, he shouldn't be so petty and do such a thing that would kill 1,000 enemies and harm 100,000 of his own. Both of them are likely to become Naruto in the future and become the key figures to change the situation of the Uchiha, and now he offended them all at once. Patriarch, what the hell are you thinking? Many people even secretly wondered if their Patriarch's position was leaning towards the radicals. Just as everyone was thinking about how to speak, a Chunin came in and reported, Patriarch, Minato and Garashi said that they came to attend the meeting at your request. What do you think? Fugaku said with a smile, let them in. After that, he looked at the three with encouraging eyes. Mitsuki, Sherry and Bayakura-san, the rest is up to you. Mitsuki barely squeezed out the words, oui. But before they finished speaking they heard Bayakura-san say, no problem, leave it to the three of us. The two's mouth twitched, you old bastard, why do you have to involve the two of them? While they were talking, Garashi and Minato walked in side by side. Fugaku coughed, You two, is there anything you want to explain? As soon as his voice fell, the hearts of everyone in the room tightened. Patriarch, don't be so rude. Minato said apologetically, I'm sorry, I shouldn't intervene in the affairs of the Uchiha, but Kakashi and Bordered Soil are my disciples. I really can't sit back and do nothing about this kind of thing. Garashi nodded. Bordered Soil and Kakashi are both my friends, and today I came to disturb you in the position of their friends. The attitude of the two was very humble, and they didn't oppress people as some people imagined. But the attitude of the two was modest and polite, and the fear in their hearts deepened. You know, Shimizu Garashi and Namikaze Minato, these two names represent not only themselves, but also the powerful forces behind them. Under such circumstances, they didn't need to do anything at all. As long as they showed a little bit of attitude, a large group of people would jump out and speak up for them. Thinking of this, some people hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Not at all. We're all friends. Let's make things clear. The White Crane frowned in dissatisfaction. What do you mean by saying it clearly? You should just dig your eyes out. Everyone closed their eyes in pain. They couldn't move it. The Water Gate looked over. Senior, can you explain why you think this way? What other reason do I need? The biggest reason is to prevent the bloodline of the Uchiha from spreading. Minato patiently explained, it's just a simple transplant. It won't change the bloodline in the body. If Kakashi has descendants in the future, his children will only inherit the name of the Hatake family. The White Crane frowned. That won't do. There has never been a precedent for such a thing. There is no precedent because the clans in the Warring States period were enemies, but now it's different. All the clans in the village are companions. If we stay in the past, are the Uchiha a clan that drifts outside the village? Everyone in the room was shocked when they heard how serious Minato's words were. No, how is that possible? Ha ha ha, we Uchiha have always been loved by everyone. The White Crane was depressed. But no matter how stubborn he was, he knew that this kind of political correctness couldn't be denied. The depression in his heart had nowhere to vent, and when he saw the two sitting there with their heads down like ostriches, he suddenly became angry. Mitsuo, Kiri, what do you two think? The two cursed in their hearts and weakly raised their heads. I think that the eyes of the Hatake family should be recovered, but we can wait until Hatake Kakashi dies or dies of old age. I think so too. Minato laughed. This is very pertinent. The White Crane interrupted with a black face. Absolutely not. How can the power of the Uchiha be stolen by outsiders? Then I'll put it another way. Minato said helplessly. The Sharingan is a gift from the Bordered Soil to Kakashi. The Uchiha have no right to take it back. Nonsense, what's a child's decision? The White Crane said firmly. Moreover, the Sharingan belongs to the entire Uchiha. He has no right to make such a decision on behalf of the clan. In other words, the interests of the clan are greater than personal feelings. Garashi, who had been silent, suddenly asked. The White Crane didn't think there was any problem with this and said without thinking, yes. Garashi smiled slightly. What about the interests of the clan and the overall situation of the village? Of course it's the clan. Before he finished speaking, his mouth was covered by the person next to him. Haha, he wants to say that the interests of the clan are certainly not as important as the overall situation of the village. The White Crane removed the hand covering his mouth and looked angry. Even so, will the Bordered Soil's eyes affect the overall situation of the village? Of course it will. Garashi analyzed with a straight face. First, the Bordered Soil's gift before his death represents the friendship on the battlefield. Your approach will inevitably affect everyone's enthusiasm to participate in the war. If it affects the situation of the war, can you afford to take responsibility? Secondly, their friendship that transcends life and death and their families is in line with the Exionho inheritance and the fusion of the will of fire. Their deeds will undoubtedly allow everyone to have a deeper understanding of the will of fire. Are you trying to deny the will of fire? Everyone looked at Garashi with horror in their eyes. To be able to connect the Bordered Soil's eyes to the situation of the war and the will of fire, this ability to sublimate the main idea is too strong. Should it be said that he is worthy of inheriting the will of fire from Naruto-sama? The White Crane's eyes were wide open, and an unknown sound came from his throat. He was killed. Seeing that the time was right, Fugaku tried to smooth things over. Let's take a step back. Didn't Garashi say that the deeds of Hatake Kakashi are important? Then let him prove himself in the war. As long as Hatake Kakashi can prove himself in the war and prove that he will not disgrace the reputation of the Sharingan, then the Uchiha clan will no longer pursue this matter. Garashi and Minato looked at each other and said after a moment of contemplation. "Okay." Fugaku looked to the side. "Patriarch Byakuga, what do you think?" The white crane awkwardly turned his head. "That's it." Seeing that the matter was satisfactorily resolved, everyone was relieved. After relaxing, they couldn't help but be secretly shocked. They didn't expect the patriarch to be so reliable. Fugaku and Garashi looked at each other and smiled, praising each other's acting skills in their hearts. Chapter 245. A few days later on Mount Sumeru. This place is desolate and remote, and in the eyes of those who don't know, it's no different from a mass grave. At this moment in the deepest part of the cave. "Hirako-sama, this is the latest information about the Woodleaf clan." A tall ninja bowed his head and delivered the information. He didn't even dare to look up at the terrifying childlike man in front of him. He was worried that if he looked at the information he would become a research subject on the operating table in the next moment. Hirako stood on the stairs that were much higher than the ground and took the information. "You can go now." "Yes." The ninja below was relieved and fled for his life. Hirako didn't care about the attitude of his subordinates and opened the scroll to read it carefully. After a while he frowned and whispered, "Uchiha Kakashi. Test?" "In my estimation the probability of such a thing happening is less than 20%, but it is not impossible. After all, the Uchiha clan is an extremely proud clan. The only thing I need to think about is whether this is a trap for me or not." Hirako squinted his eyes. Being able to escape from the Woodleaf clan under the pursuit of the Sannin, he naturally isn't a reckless person. But the problem is that the information he has is too little. Judging from the information he has collected so far, he really can't make an accurate judgment. However, although I can't judge whether this is a trap or not, I can take the initiative to avoid this risk. Hirako pondered. The only thing that can pose a threat to me is the Flying Thunder God Jutsu of the two juniors. As long as I restrict their Flying Thunder God Jutsu, even if it's a trap, it won't be able to stop me. As for the method to restrict their Flying Thunder God Jutsu, I can ask someone to add fuel to the fire in the Uchiha clan, saying that with the protection of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, it won't be a test at all, and before entering the battlefield, they must check Kakashi's body for any traces of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Thinking of this, Hirako smiled slightly. "Kakashi, I originally wanted to leave you to the end, but now it seems that I will have to make you a part of my body in advance." Underground of the Land of Grass. "Don't stop me, let me leave." Bordered Soil pushed Zetsu away and stumbled outside. "Rin and Kakashi must be very sad to know that I died. I have to go back and see them." "Hee, in your current state you'll die halfway," the masked white Zoo said with a smile. "Damn it." Bordered Soil angrily turned to look into the distance. "Hey, how long are you going to keep me here?" "Impolite brat." Old Spot sat on the stone steps. "Don't forget who saved you. Who knows if you have good intentions, staring at me all day long." Bordered Soil pointed to Madara in horror. "Maybe you're coveting my body." Madara's mouth twitched and he couldn't imagine how the Uchiha could be so funny. "It's not good for your health to be irritable. Go to sleep first." Madara took his crutch and gently touched the Bordered Soil. "You really are." Before he could finish his words, Obito fainted with a face full of fear. Madara was silent for a moment, looked at the white Zetsu around him and asked, "Did he really skip the one Tomo and evolve directly from the unawakened to the two Tomo form?" A white Zetsu exaggeratedly said, "That's right, he gave us a fright at that time." Madara's eyes twitched and he subconsciously thought of someone. Is it possible that the more idiotic a person is, the better his talent is? As a person who opened the Rinnegan, his definition of talent is naturally not just a simple ninjutsu talent. In his view, Bordered Soil is a genius with outstanding talent in the Kekkei Genkai. However, I have to help him cut off the cause and effect. Madara continued to ask, "How did he open his Sharingan?" Hearing his question, several white Zetsu answered excitedly, "It was opened when his teammates were in danger." Teammate number 1, Hatake Kakashi, male, is regarded by Bordered Soil as the most hated person and the most wanted to defeat him. Teammate number 2, Noera Rin, female, is Bordered Soil's secret love. No, the object of his love. Although they were talking in a mess, Madara understood and asked after a moment of contemplation. "Hatake Kakashi? The one you said last time, the one who got the other eye of Bordered Soil?" "It's him." Obito thought that he was going to die, so he gave his left eye to Kakashi, who had already been injured. Madara nodded thoughtfully and his voice was cold. "I understand." Find a way to design a scene so that bordered soil can witness the scene of Rin killing Hatake Kakashi. All the white Zetsu were stunned. Is that the case? Why do they feel that something is wrong? Seeing that the white Zetsu did not respond, Madara frowned and asked, "What's the problem?" From his point of view, Hatake Kakashi is the most annoying person, but when there are benefits he is the first one to think of, and he is the opponent he wants to challenge the most. Isn't such a relationship between him and Hashirama? So here's the question. Which is more important, a friend or a woman? Black, who was hidden in a group of white Zetsu, was dumbfounded. He seemed to ignore a problem. As a super single dog, Madara seems to be completely unaware of the importance of a woman. Although he himself was a 1,000-year-old single dog that was scarier than a 100-year-old single dog, he had his own unique understanding. Brothers are traitors, only maternal love is eternal. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu quickly controlled the white Zetsu and said, "Madara-sama, would you like to test it with an illusion?" Illusion test. Madara raised his eyebrows, and he also wanted to know what choice he would make. Let's try it. In the illusion, bordered soil was running wildly. I finally escaped. I have to hurry to find Rin and Kakashi. They will be very happy to see me. Thinking of this, bordered soil felt a lot lighter. Escaping from the forest, the bright sun shone. Obito squinted his eyes and saw a scene that made him panic and despair. He saw Kakashi's chest was penetrated by an arm, and the blood dripped to the ground. No, Kakashi. Bordered soil roared angrily, and then he saw the person who killed Kakashi looking back. Rin, how could it be? I understand, is it because Kakashi betrayed the village? Bordered soil explained forcibly, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Kakashi, who was dying, took advantage of the moment when Rin looked back and penetrated her chest in the same way. No. Bordered soil broke through the illusion in extreme anger and despair. Madara was shocked, and he knocked out bordered soil before he could figure out the situation. Then there was a strange silence. After a long time, Madara said, "Go and pay attention to Rin and be ready to take action." Yes. When the white Zetsu around him retreated, Madara was confused. Is it me or this kid who is wrong? Chapter 246. Woodleaf, Shinakushina's house. Minato-sensei, Garashi-sensei, I'm sorry for troubling you. Kakashi was half touched and half guilty. If he hadn't been so willful, the two of them wouldn't have had to work so hard. Minato-sensei shook his head slightly. I'm fine, but you really should thank Garashi. Kakashi nodded heavily and looked at Garashi. Thank you, sensei. I'll accept this gratitude. Garashi smiled and took out an ice crystal pendant. After all, it took me a lot of effort to make this. Looking at the crystal clear pendant in Garashi's hand that didn't have much coldness, Kakashi asked curiously, Sensei, what is this? This is a pendant I made with ice release. It can keep people awake to a certain extent. Garashi smiled and handed over the pendant. Aren't you under the puppet curse? Minato-sensei and I can't leave the Flying Thunder God technique on you, so we can only teleport to the place closest to you. The function of this pendant is to ensure that you won't be affected by the puppet curse as much as possible before we arrive. Taking the pendant, Kakashi instinctively shuddered. He didn't feel it when he looked at it from afar, but when he held it in his hand, a chill rushed to his heart. It wasn't the kind of bone-chilling cold, but cool and refreshing, as if cold water splashed on his face in the spring morning, refreshing his heart. Lin said happily, Great, with this, we don't have to worry about the puppet curse's influence. Garashi took out another pendant and handed it to Lin. Lin, this is yours. Lin blinked and pointed at herself with her small white hand. I also have a share? If it was just a simple ice release, I wouldn't have said that this thing consumes energy. Garashi explained with a smile. In addition to keeping the wearer awake, this pendant has two functions. First, it can sense the location. Minato-sensei and I can't be too close to you, otherwise there's a risk of being discovered by the enemy. One of the functions of this pendant is to guide Minato-sensei and I when you're in danger. Although we already have Kakashi's coordinates, it's always safer to have one more. Secondly, treatment and fake death. After all, Brother Minato and I can't leave techniques everywhere on the battlefield. We can only teleport to the place closest to you. You'll have to fight for the time in between. I'm not worried about Kakashi's strength, but Rin, your strength is relatively weak, and you might become the enemy's weakness. Remember to break the pendant at critical moments. Because the second function of the pendant is similar to a medical scroll, which contains the medical ninjutsu that I sealed. Furthermore, the shattered ice crystals will turn into cold air and invade your body, greatly reducing your body's metabolic rate. Your cells will go into hibernation, and your body will enter a state of suspended animation. If you are lucky, you might be able to fool your enemies. Hearing Garashi's words, everyone's eyes lit up. It's also a medical ninjutsu, but the one sealed by Garashi, a top medical ninja, is naturally far stronger than the average one. Needless to say, this pendant also came with many special effects such as simple, mind cleansing, fake death, and so on. Amazing, this is a super luxurious and enhanced version of the medical scroll. If this life-saving artifact is sold, it's at least 100,000. Rin accepted the pendant and was moved. Senpai, I'm sorry for troubling you. Seeing Garashi working hard for him and even thinking about Rin, Kakashi's eyes gradually turned from worship to fanaticism. Senpai, I will not let you down. Mizuki rubbed his chin. Why do I feel like I'm looking at a mirror? 3 days later, Eastern Camp. On an empty plain, the ninjas of Konoha, Cloud, and Mist were fighting in a tangled mess. Especially in the central area, all kinds of thunder, lightning, wind, flames, and waterfalls intertwined into a terrible energy storm. The hard ground collapsed and gravel was swept up by the wind. Under the wind speed, the gravel shot around like bullets, easily piercing the rocks on the edge. The surrounding ninjas hid far away for fear of being affected by the battle. Bastard! How dare you lie to me? A was furious. We agreed to fight Woodleaf together. Then why did you secretly contact Woodleaf? Do you think I don't know? Rokubi's Jinchuriki said contemptuously. A's eyes widened as he said, that's because I wanted to numb Konoha. Hozuki Shinzuki sneered. Not only did you say the agreed secret signal, but you also said the agreed combat arrangement. You are really stupid. How do you know this? A was shocked and then looked at Jiraiya angrily. You bastard, you sold us out? Didn't we agree to fight against Kirin together? Jiraiya's mouth twitched. The credibility of your two families is not good. I would be a fool to believe you. Indeed, as he thought after the battle, he didn't use any of the information he got. How dare you slander our union's credibility? A increased the output efficiency of his lightning release chakra mode, and his right arm like a thunder dragon swung toward Jiraiya. Lightning storm. Does Yunin have such a thing as credibility? Jiraiya said, and his long silver hair hardened and covered his whole body, and the ends stood up like spikes, making him look like a large hedgehog. Ninjutsu, Needle Xidigarba. A naturally could see that this defense had a damage reflection effect, but he wasn't the kind of person who would back down, and without any hesitation he punched. Boom. Jiraiya was blown away like a ball, and A's right hand was bleeding, and the bones on the back of his hand were faintly visible. At this moment, a small water droplet quietly flew behind A, and then the water droplet exploded like a bomb. In the distance, Hozuki Shinzuki withdrew his right hand, which was in the form of a gun, and looked at the air waves in the center of the explosion. He chuckled and said, "Stop pretending, you're not a man who would fall for a trick so easily." As if to prove his words, as soon as he finished speaking, a figure rushed out from the ground where he was standing and attacked him in an indomitable manner. Hozuki Shinzuki couldn't dodge in time and was punched into a pool of liquid by A's fist. Idiot! The water transformation technique is useless against the lightning release. As A shouted coldly, the pool of liquid turned into a water ball and wrapped around him. Ouch! But this is not as simple as the water transformation technique. Hozuki Shinzuki giggled. It's a combination of six-tailed lava release and water transformation technique. I hope you can withstand it. That's all there is to it. A endured the pain and wantonly released the power of the lightning release inside the cage. Although it wasn't a simple water release, it was still very effective against the lightning release. Ah. The two were torturing each other, and suddenly a giant toad fell from the sky and pressed them down. Chapter 247. Being summoned by Jiraiya in such a way, Gamabunta wasn't surprised. Collapsing roof technique was one of their commonly used tactics. However, after sitting down, Gamabunta jumped up and covered his butt. It was sore and numb. Was he playing lightning venom dragon drill? Seeing Jiraiya, Gamabunta pulled out his short sword and slashed at him. Bastard Jiraiya, don't throw me to some random place. Jiraiya hurriedly dodged and scratched his head awkwardly. Boss Toad, it's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. The surrounding ninjas were all stunned. Did Jiraiya-sama summon a summoned beast to attack its master? The two, who were almost squashed into meat patties by Gamabunta's butt, fought separately and also attacked Jiraiya's position. Fire release, great flame bullet. Lightning release, thunder dragon roar. Lava release, acid bomb. Lightning and fire intersected, and the exploding flames and acid mist splashed out from the center like a meteor shower. Seeing this, the ninjas of the three sides in the fierce battle fled to the distance in horror. Not good, run quickly. Hide further away, it's not a joke to be hit by this attack. Jiraiya and the other two knew that things were not good, but no one dared to be distracted, afraid that the other two would seize the opportunity. At this moment a chill spread out. The flames were extinguished, the acid froze, and the ice crystals drifted with the wind, turning the originally terrifying scene into a beautiful scene. Phew. We're saved. Wait, this ability is... While everyone was rejoicing, they suddenly realized that in addition to the mist, there was only one person in Konoha who had this ability. Who could it be? In the next moment, a figure that was like a nightmare to Yunin and Kirin walked out from the forest. The two sides instantly wailed. That monster is back again. Is it going to be like before? It should be even scarier than before. I heard that even the Tsuchikage fell in his hands. Not only them, even the three people in the center of the battlefield subconsciously stopped fighting. I'm stronger than a year ago, but this bastard is also much stronger than a year ago. AI was depressed. His improvement was great, but the other party's improvement seemed to be even greater than his. Is he the Shimizu Garashi who was expelled from the 7 legendary swordsmen of the Ninja Blade? Hozuki Shinzuki narrowed his eyes. Although he wanted to take revenge, he didn't rush forward. This little guy is really dazzling. He stole this immortal's limelight the moment he arrived. Jiraiya muttered. If Garashi was just a rising star when he left the Eastern Front a year ago, then when he returned from the Western Front, he was already a big shot in the shinobi world by stepping on the rock Crypsis. Just his appearance on the battlefield was enough to catch everyone's attention. Tutai cautiously stepped forward and asked, Lord AI, should we prepare to retreat? What nonsense are you talking about? AI said angrily, do you think the great Yunin will be scared away by a little brat? Well said. Hozuki Shinzuki smiled, how about we join forces for the time being? Forget about joining forces, I don't trust you. AI curled his lips, let's deal with one each. You still don't trust me? Hozuki Shinzuki secretly cursed in his heart, but he agreed, then let me try the strength of this legendary Woodleaf's light. Let's see if my slug or his is stronger. Six-tailed rhino? That guy does seem to be in the form of a slug, even the ability to spit acid is very similar. Jiraiya on the opposite side secretly thought, however, the slug Garashi summoned is only a part of the slug sage. If he summons the complete body, the six-tailed rhino is probably not its opponent. Because the opponent is Garashi, who once sealed the Yanbi with a single move, Hozuki Shinzuki didn't dare to underestimate him and directly transformed into the half-tailed beast mode. Lava release, decay of the wolf. A strong corrosive solution was spat out from his mouth and rushed toward the Woodleaf camp where Garashi was. Although this attack looked terrible, the Woodleaf ninjas weren't worried. They just looked at Garashi standing in front of them with expectant eyes. Even if he left for a year, he still looked so reliable. Garashi pretended to clap his hands and closed his eyes. Sage mode. The huge dragon vein chakra continued to pour out of the Yin seal, and a powerful feeling filled every corner of his body. Unprecedented power. Immortal technique, ice release, blizzard. Frost drifted down from the sky like a rain of arrows. In an instant, it froze the waves that were surging toward them. It's comparable to my chakra. No, it's even bigger than the tailed beast chakra I borrowed. How did this guy do it? Hozuki Shinzuki was a little confused. It was the first time he encountered a monster that could fight against their Jinchuriki on chakra. Just as he was in a daze, Garashi pressed his right hand on the ground, and in the next moment, a layer of ice spread on the ground at a very fast speed. Hozuki Shinzuki didn't dare to neglect and ran wildly. While running around, he didn't forget to spray acid bomb at Garashi. However, Garashi didn't even think of dodging. He maintained a half-squatting position and erected an ice barrier around him. The acid bomb hit the ice, but not only did it not break the barrier, but it also froze into a part of the barrier. Seeing that the long-range attack didn't work, the six-tailed beast turned around and rushed toward Garashi. However, hundreds of meters around Garashi had already been covered by ice. Just as he turned around, his limbs were immediately frozen. Not only that, the ice spread to every part of his body. The powerful strength of a half-tailed beast naturally wouldn't be confined so easily. The solidified chakra chi gushed out from his body, peeling off and shattering the layer of ice covering his body. However, it wasn't as if he wasn't hurt. The intense chill made his body feel numb. Why do I feel that this guy's ice escape is even more powerful than the third generation? Could it be the effect of that immortal technique? Nezuki Shinzuki regretted his recklessness, but he was already at the point of no return. He had no choice but to use chakra and charge forward. Finally, when he rushed in front of Garashi and smashed the barrier with his tail, what greeted him was a small sun that Garashi had compressed more than 10 times. Immortal Art, Compressed Rasengan. F*CK at #% Hozuki Shinzuki cursed, and then he was blown away by the energy beam. An incomparably dazzling light accompanied by an intense sandstorm caused everyone to be unable to open their eyes. When the light dissipated, everyone saw the horrifying scene in front of them. On the ground, there was a scorched trench that was a few kilometers long, as if it was the trace of a meteorite plowing through the ground. So scary. This is not a ninja-level battle at all, right? Jiraiya, who was fighting with A, was dumbfounded. He was almost sent flying by the opponent. At first he thought that Garashi had entered a one-time use Sage mode, but now he felt that something was wrong. How could there be such an extravagant and wasteful immortal technique like chakra? Not to mention a one-time use Sage mode, even a normal Sage mode should have been exited by now. This kind of bold attack made Jiraiya jealous. If he could also have this level of Senjutsu chakra, let alone AI, he would even beat AI's father without hesitation. Chapter 248. In terms of pure attack power, this guy is almost comparable to a Bijidama. I looked at the front in disbelief. Damn it, is there no limit to this bastard's progress? Under the ruins at the end of the ravine, Chakra's aura dissipated. Then the rubble covering Shinzuki's body bounced off, and a huge slug crawled out. Seeing this, the Kirin ninjas were shocked. Oh no, Shinzuki-sama went berserk. Hurry up and inform Mizuki-sama. Even if he goes berserk, he has no chance of winning against such a monster, right? They couldn't help but be pessimistic. Shimizu Garashi's suppression power is too strong. In just a few minutes, he seriously injured Shinzuki-sama and even forced him to enter his complete form. And in their opinion, even the Rokubi's complete form doesn't have much chance of winning. The huge slug wriggled on the ground at a speed that was inconsistent with its size. A slug with 6 tails? Garashi looked at the Rokubi rushing towards him with interest. He bit his finger and formed a contract with his blood. Summoning, House Collapse Technique. With Senjutsu Chakra as a sacrifice and a huge amount of Senjutsu Chakra at that, what kind of slug will be summoned? Unlike Mount Mayaboku's cave, the size limit of the summoned slug is based on the size of the slug sage. This also means that as long as the amount of chakra used as a sacrifice is strong enough, he can even summon a super large summoned beast that is much larger than Buntamanda. At the next moment, a gigantic slug that stretched as far as the eye could see smashed into the body of Six Tails, who was moving forward. Boom. Like an earthquake, the terrifying pressure made the earth tremble. Looking at the huge slug that was 3 times his size, Bunta didn't know whether to curse or not. Is this kid the reincarnation of the Sage of the Six Paths? Chakra is too powerful, it can even summon a slug of this level. Jiraiya felt incredibly envious and patted Wentai as he said, "Boss Toad, you have to eat more. Look at how big other people's slugs are." Wentai's toad-like face was filled with human-like disdain. If I was really that big, would your chakra be able to summon me? Jiraiya stared blankly. That seemed to be the case. Wouldn't a summon of this size drain him dry? Damn it, with so much chakra you can really do whatever you want. The visual impact of this giant slug, which is several times larger than a tailed beast, is too strong, making the hearts of many Kirin and Yunin ninjas tremble. Are you kidding me? A monster of this level? I think we should hurry up and run. This monster can crush us to death just by rolling on the ground. On the field, it was like an epic battle between giant beasts. Six-tailed and the slug casually rolled their bodies, causing the ground to tremble. Size represented power. Especially when they were both slugs, the rhinoceros dog was completely suppressed in terms of power. In just a few rounds, the rhinoceros dog was pressed under the giant slug's body. However, tailed beasts are not only scary because of their size, but also because of their incomparably powerful chakra. A dark, high-density energy ball condensed in the rhinoceros dog's mouth. The terrifying aura it emitted made the giant slug uneasy. Garashi naturally wouldn't let the opponent attack the slug. At the moment when the Bijidama was launched, he used Flying Thunder God to change its trajectory. Then, under the horrified eyes of the mist shinobis, the Bijidama flew towards them with an unstoppable momentum. Quickly run. don't gather together, run separately. Even if the Kirin ninjas were scattered, they still suffered heavy losses under the super large range attack of the Baijidama. If it was a normal situation, seeing this scene, Nizuki Shinzuki naturally wouldn't use Baijidama. But his consciousness has already gone out of control, and he instinctively used Baijidama to attack the giant slug that was pressing on him. Seeing the second Baijidama gradually taking shape, the Yunin ninja Tsutai tactfully shouted, "Let's also spread out as much as possible, don't gather together." Yunin ninjas were startled and hurriedly scattered in all directions. Sure enough, after the second Baijidama took shape, it directly flew toward them. Because they scattered in advance, the damage caused by this Baijidama was far less than the previous one. But even so, it still made AI angry. Damn Kirin idiot, if you can't control your consciousness, don't learn to use your whole body. After the second one, the third one, the fourth one, all of them were transferred by Garashi, causing both sides to suffer unspeakable pain. As if it found that it was working for Garashi in vain, the rhinoceros dog angrily whimpered and sprayed a strong acid from its mouth. However, before the acid could get close to Garashi, it was swallowed by the giant slug under his feet. Seeing this scene, even the berserk Rokubi was a little confused. Why does it feel like the opponent is more like a tailed beast than it is? His strength and lava release are restrained by that guy's summoned beast, his use of chakra is too rough, and the Baijidama is a clumsy attack method that he can use. AI sighed in his heart and judged Nizuki Shinzuki. He is suppressed in all aspects, this idiot is bound to lose. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but want to retreat. If he didn't run now, should he wait for the opponent to defeat the Rokubi and join forces with Jiraiya to deal with him? Garashi, who was standing on the giant slug's head, suddenly frowned slightly. Under the perception of Sage Mode, a very powerful chakra was rapidly approaching. I have seen the chakra of Raikage and Killer Bee, but this chakra is very different from them but equally powerful. Is it Mizukage? Garashi slightly raised the corner of his mouth and took out a scroll to seal it. 8 trigram seal. Above Garashi, the huge golden 8 trigrams image was constantly rotating, and below the image the rhinoceros dog was struggling in pain. In fact, with the current state of the Rokubi, it was still too early to seal him. But the shock he gave everyone before was too big, and this seal looked very powerful, so everyone subconsciously thought that the Rokubi was really going to be sealed. 8 trigram seal? Jiraiya wasn't surprised that Garashi knew such a high-level seal, but he wondered how the 8 trigram seal became so powerful. Even he couldn't see it, so the Kirin ninjas were naturally scared. It's over, Shinzuki is going to be sealed. The Rokubi's Jinchuriki is an important force of our Kirin. Once he is sealed, the village's deterrence will be greatly reduced. Hurry up and stop him. Are you kidding me? Even if he can't free himself, we can't get close to the summoned beast under his feet. Hearing these voices, the Mizukage was shocked, and after seeing the situation on the field, he didn't hesitate to use his strongest attack. Water release, overpressure water blade. The target of his attack was not Garashi, but the suppressed 6-tailed rhinoceros dog. At such a long distance, Garashi's body is small, and it is said that his perception is very strong. In this case, the possibility of him hitting Garashi is very small. Relatively speaking, the huge and immobile 6-tailed rhinoceros dog is much easier to hit. The rhinoceros dog was resisting Garashi's seal with all its strength, and the inexplicable water blade was the strongest attack of the Mizukage, so it couldn't resist at all. There was a sound of kacha. Half of the rhinoceros dog's body was cut off and sealed in the scroll, and the rest of the body was successfully broken tail. Oh, fortunately I caught up. The Mizukage whispered, and then met the eyes of the rhinoceros dog full of murderous intent. Rhinoceros dog, $#, Mizukage? Chapter 249. Even if the Mizukage was slow, he realized that something was wrong. It seems that the Rokubi doesn't need his help. After all, he has been a Mizukage for many years, and with his intelligence he quickly figured out the general process. This bastard perceived that I was coming and deliberately pretended that the seal was successful to lead me to attack and cooperate with him to seriously injure the Rokubi. The bijou is indeed strong, but it depends on who the enemy is. Shimizu Garashi is already very difficult to deal with, and with the Mizukage's attack, even the Kyubi may not be able to withstand it. If he had more time, he may be able to see through the opponent's plan, but the problem is that the situation at that time was very urgent, and he could only make a judgment based on what he saw and heard. And he didn't expect that the opponent even took into account the reaction of the ordinary ninjas. The seal image that looked quite scary should be used to mislead them. To be able to make such a reaction in such a short time, what a terrible kid. The control of people's hearts is not something that a teenager can do. The Mizukage opened his eyes wide and seemed to want to see the other side clearly. Is this a real genius? Not only his strength, but even his intelligence is far beyond ordinary people. It's just a small detail. The original 2-on-1 situation turned into a 1-on-1 with a burden. No, maybe it's a 1-on-2 situation. Looking at the murderous rhinoceros dog, the Mizukage's heart was full of helplessness. The original fierce battle on the battlefield was temporarily stopped because of the arrival of the Mizukage. The Mist side originally wanted to cheer, but after seeing the strange situation in the field, they gave up the idea of cheering. It seems that something is not right. Is it an illusion? Why do I feel that Mizukage-sama is a bit wronged? Garashi calmly put away the scroll. The collection of the Rokubi chakra was completed, and he was too lazy to waste his energy. After all, the Mizukage is much more difficult to deal with than the Rokubi. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, the bijou is the ultimate weapon. But in his view, the Kages of the villages are the real troublesome characters. After all, the strength of a tailed beast lay in its size, strength, vitality and chakra. In terms of size and strength, he could use his spiritual beasts to deal with it. In terms of vitality, he could just seal it as a warning. As for chakra, his chakra was no less powerful than a tailed beast. Coupled with the flying thunder god's mobility, the so-called tailed beast was like a mobile cannon in his eyes. Of course, this does not include the perfect Jinchuriki and Kyubi. Relatively speaking, Kage who has reached the peak in terms of combat experience and ninjutsu practice is the real problem. Of course, it was just trouble. The difference is that he can defeat the Jinchuriki head-on, but for the Kage of each village, as long as they don't make any mistakes, he can only exhaust them, and this is if they don't run away. However, this is only possible with the powerful third Kage. Garashi shook his head inwardly. If it were the 3 disgraces of the shadow in the original work, I could beat them up with one hand. Seeing that Garashi didn't seem to have the intention to fight again, the Mizukage was slightly relieved and sealed the Rokubi with the water prison jutsu. The Rokubi was seriously injured, and the seal on the Hozuki Shinzuki was personally placed by him. Without external interference, it wasn't too difficult to seal the Rokubi back. After doing all this, the Mizukage said in a deep voice, "Let's stop here for today, this war may be over." Hearing his words, the ninjas of the 3 sides were stunned. Was the war really going to end? For a while, everyone's fighting spirit gradually dissipated. Finding a way out for yourself is quite fast. Although he was complaining in his heart, he didn't refute. Except for the few of us, everyone else's chakra should be almost empty. If you don't want to play a one-man show, listen to the Mizukage. Jiraiya was silent for a moment and cancelled the summoning. Treat the wounded. Not only Kirin and Yunin, but also many ninjas of Woodleaf were obviously relieved. Then, the 3 sides began to leave in an orderly manner. Asuma came over and asked in a low voice, "If the war is over, what about Kakashi?" "The war is indeed over, but not now." Garashi pondered. "At least 3 months, at most half a year." Asuma wondered. "Didn't the Mizukage say that he doesn't want to fight anymore? You believe him just because he said so?" Garashi looked at him helplessly and sighed. This is just him finding a way out for himself. If he really wants to continue, he can just find a reason. Moreover, this is also a means for him to suppress others. Now that the anti-war sentiment is very serious, if we refuse, he can say that we don't care about the lives of the soldiers for our own interests. These old guys are really insidious. Asuma shook his head and sighed. Speaking of which, are the ninjas of Yunin and Kirin idiots? At this time they still don't choose to join forces. That's because even if they join forces, it doesn't make sense. Jiraiya's voice came from the side. Asuma asked subconsciously. It doesn't make sense? Why do you think they don't join forces? They know that even if they join forces, it won't change anything. Jiraiya shrugged. However, thanks to the peace between you and Rock Crypsis, it gave them hope. Otherwise, their attitude wouldn't be as unstable as it is now. In that case, why are they still fighting? You have to understand that after they released the Beast of War from the cage, the development of the situation has been out of control. Before the beast is put back in the cage, the long-accumulated contradictions must be released. Asuma nodded as if he understood. You're saying that their real target is actually each other? You can say that, but we can't relax our vigilance. Jiraiya's expression was serious. If possible, they won't miss the opportunity to bite off a piece of meat from Woodleaf. These relationships are so complicated that it gives me a headache. Asuma covered his head and sighed. In that case, I didn't ruin your strategy, right? Garashi looked at Jiraiya and asked. Ah, don't worry. Jiraiya laughed. You broke the balance just right. The Rokubi Jinchuriki is seriously injured, and Yunin may not be able to hold back anymore. Garashi nodded slightly. Once Yunin makes up her mind to fight Kirin, Rock Crypsis will also make their move. The involvement of the three forces should speed up the end of the war. It seems so. Jiraiya rubbed his chin and laughed. It seems that this immortal can finally be free from this boring war. Yes, I can finally be free. Garashi echoed. In his heart, he thought, if Black Zetsu's design is still the same, I may be able to bring this war to a grand end. Chapter 250. 2 days later in Yunnan village. Is that guy really as strong as you said? Reikage looked suspiciously at his son who seemed to have Garashi phobia. Hey Dad, don't look at me like that. I slammed the table angrily. You make it sound like I'm afraid of that kid. Oh, isn't it? Reikage curled his lips. It's not that I'm afraid, it's more like I'm bragging. AI chopped Killer Bee's head with a karate chop, interrupting his chanting. Then he said with a straight face, I'm serious. That bastard's strength is really outrageous. Of course, I know how strong that kid is, but you're exaggerating his strength too much. Reikage calmly analyzed. He stepped on Hanzo and Inoki to reach the top of the ninja world twice. I heard that one was a sneak attack and the other one was a joint attack. If he's really as terrible as you say, he wouldn't have ended up like this. But that was a year ago. A said with a serious face. He's a genius like me, maybe even a little bit more powerful than me. My progress is so big, it's not surprising that his growth is exaggerated. Killer Bee looked at us strangely. Why did he feel that his brother was going further and further on the road of Garashi bragging? In just a few minutes, he seriously injured a Jinchuriki. This isn't something that can be explained by exaggeration. Reikage's mouth twitched and he immediately shook his head. Forget it, even if his progress isn't as big as you said, the current Woodleaf isn't someone we can deal with. It's difficult for us to defeat Woodleaf, but it's not that easy for Woodleaf to defeat us. Speaking of Konoha as a whole, A's thoughts returned to normal. It's impossible for Konoha to completely trust the Rock Village. The fact that they left half of their troops on the Western Front is the best proof. In this case, their advantage isn't big enough to completely suppress us. Reikage nodded in agreement. The confrontation with Woodleaf remains the same. The key is Kirin. Kirin? They might have already guessed our intentions, AI said in a deep voice. Saying that they want to end the war, they're most likely going to hang up the no war sign. You think you can stop just because he said so? Reikage sneered. Oh, this old man is not a person who cares about face. But what if he uses this as an excuse to make a fuss and say that we don't care about the lives of our subordinates? A frowned. It will be a bit of a blow to our morale. Then just catch a spy and say that the mist used the slogan of truce to poison the water when we relaxed our vigilance. Reikage waved his hand indifferently. If you want to start a war, you can have as many reasons as you want. Hearing this, AI and Killer Bee both looked like they had learned something. At the same time at Kirin's base. Elder Yuan, how is the situation? The Mizukage stood at the door and asked. Not too good. The part of its body that you cut off is too big. Even if it is six-tailed, it will be difficult for it to recover in a short period of time. Master Yuan sighed with a heavy expression. The Mizukage looked embarrassed and then sighed. I didn't expect that I would be tricked by a little brat. Sensei was surprised. Even you were tricked. Is that little guy from Konoha really that powerful? He's a character as difficult as Naruto, no, even more difficult than him. The Mizukage took a deep breath. He's powerful and has an outstanding temperament. He's the perfect combination of the power of the first Naruto and the wisdom of the second Naruto. I didn't expect you to have such a high evaluation of a person you've only met once. Master Yuan's old face showed a trace of emotion, and he immediately looked at Empress Shomiai. Little Ming, you and Violet Knight are the only two people in Kirin who have had deep contact with that guy when he was weak. Do you have any ideas about his weaknesses? Obviously, we passed the Chunin exam at the same time, but when I was promoted to Jonin, he was able to make Mizukage-sama afraid. Empress Shomiai was shocked by Garashi's amazing record. When she heard Master Yuan's question, her little face instantly turned pink. Deep contact? Actually, it's not that deep. Master Yuan sighed helplessly. Then tell me your opinion. Speaking of business, Empress Shomiai seriously recalled. He's a man who can't be forgotten as long as you see him. Even if you stand in an enemy's position, you have to admit that he's perfect. If you want to talk about his weakness, it's that he's too perfect. In the Chunin exam, he was willing to fight if you don't kill for some insignificant people. Seeing that both of them were thinking, Empress Shomiai waved her hand again and again. Using the people he cares about to set a trap won't work. I heard that Suchikage fell in this place. Master Yuan nodded first, then shook his head slightly. Rock Crypsis failed because they were too greedy. It's impossible to kill Shimizu Garashi with this trap. We can learn the lesson of Rock Crypsis. First, avoid meeting Shimizu Garashi. As long as we don't take the initiative to target him, even if he's strong, he won't be able to hinder us. Second, don't ask too much. We just need to get back the ninja sword they took away. After all, the current situation is very unfavorable for us. After getting back the ninja sword, it's almost time to officially withdraw. In fact, the Mizukage already had the idea of retreating, but this kind of thing can't be proposed by him. Seeing that Master Yuan helped him to say what he wanted to say, he nodded. Yes, we must get back the ninja sword before the end of the war. After getting back the ninja sword, we will return to the land of water. Empress Shomiai was a little worried. She always felt that these words were a bit ominous. Large-scale wars may happen once in a few months, but small-scale conflicts never stop. In the jungle, Kakashi and Rin were staring at a team of 4. Rin, don't make a move. After I assassinate the team leader, you wait for the right time to act. Kakashi whispered. Rin nodded. How are you going to assassinate them? Of course I'm going to use this trick. Kakashi pushed the forehead protector on his left eye and held his right arm with his left hand. Chidori. It was as if 1,000 birds were chirping in the forest, and the shining thunder was as dazzling as the sun. The attention of the team of 4 was suddenly attracted. Who's there? Rin muttered to herself. Isn't it an assassination? Kill them all, no one will see, isn't it an assassination? Kakashi rushed out like lightning under the activation of chakra. In less than a minute, the assassination was completed. For more. Kakashi tiredly collected the enemy's forehead protector. Seeing Kakashi's kidney deficiency appearance, Rin didn't care about the meaning of the assassination and hurriedly ran forward and asked nervously. Kakashi, are you injured? Kakashi shook his head. It's just that chakra consumption is a bit high. Rin blinked. Weren't you fine when you used Chidori last time? Kakashi sighed with a melancholy face. The Sharingan can't be closed, the consumption of chakra is too high. Chapter 251. Hearing Kakashi's explanation, Lin blushed. Oh, as long as it's not kidney deficiency. Kakashi sighed secretly. Chakra is the product of the combination of physical energy and spiritual energy. Continuous consumption of chakra, in a sense, is no different from kidney deficiency. In particular, he had a head of white hair and a pair of dead fish eyes all day long. During this period of time, the neighbors all looked at him strangely. Kakashi shook his head, trying to get rid of these messy thoughts. Then he made a hand seal with his index and middle fingers. Lin, take a rest, I'm going to refine some chakra. Lin nodded, and after cleaning up the traces of battle, she quietly sat down and looked at Kakashi. If only the bordered soil was still alive, and if only the 3 of you could stay together. She sighed in her heart. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps on the grass could be heard in the quiet forest. Lin stood up, but she didn't make a sound. Instead, she vigilantly took out her kunai and walked to Kakashi's side. What a vigilant little girl. The sound of clapping came from the shadows, and a pure white child, much younger than her, walked out. He's Hiriko? This thought flashed through Lin's mind, but in order to avoid being discovered, she pretended to be surprised and asked, Who are you? Why would a child appear on the battlefield? It seems that I didn't have much of a presence in the village before. Hiriko shrugged self-deprecatingly, tilted his head and said, About this, you can ask the person behind you. Hiriko. Kakashi finished refining and stood up, his eyes serious. Why is it you again? It seems that the last time we met wasn't a coincidence. How can there be so many coincidences in this world? Hiriko shook his head slightly. Although I want to catch up with you for a while, this kind of thing should be left for later. Saying so, his eyes suddenly sharpened, and he made a complicated hand seal. Puppet spell activate. Kakashi's eyes instantly lost their luster, but at this moment, the ice crystal pendant on his chest trembled slightly, and a chill rushed to his heart. The next moment, the trembling Kakashi's eyes regained their luster. For the first time, Hiriko, who had maintained a calm demeanor since he appeared, revealed an expression of disbelief. How is this possible? My puppet curse didn't lose its effect, so why are you? The Magatama in Kakashi's left Sharingan spun rapidly, and white lightning flashed in his right palm. This question should be left for Hell, Chidori. While the ice crystal pendant was trembling inside Woodleaf's camp, Garashi, who was training Asma and the others, suddenly stopped and used Flying Thunder God to teleport out of the battlefield. The enemy has appeared. Enemy? What enemy? Asma was dizzy from the beating and couldn't react for a while. Could it be that Hiriko? Shui Mu's eyes narrowed. That's right. Garashi nodded and glanced at everyone. Asma, Shui Mu, Hong, and Mute, the four of you come with me and prepare the 4 violet flame array to trap the enemy. Roger. Knowing that time was of the essence, they didn't hesitate and quickly put their right hand on Garashi's shoulder. The next moment, Garashi's group of 5 teleported to the place closest to Kakashi. Violent lightning flashed in the forest, and finally turned into a white streak of light that rushed towards Hiriko. Hiriko, on the other hand, seemed to be unable to react and stood in place absent-mindedly. Great, it hit. Seeing Kakashi hit the enemy on the first try, Rin couldn't help but exclaim. But soon the surprise in her eyes turned into horror. Chidori, who used to be able to cut through rocks, didn't do anything when she hit the enemy. This kind of weak thrust, are you trying to tickle me? Even Kakashi's eyes were filled with disbelief. Looking at Hiriko, who was so close to him, he whispered, "How is this possible?" Before he could even finish his words, he was sent flying by Hiriko's kick and slammed into a large tree. Hiriko patted his torn clothes and smiled calmly. "Why do you look so surprised? I can feel that my attack was absorbed by you at the last moment." Kakashi stood up with his hand on his chest and asked in surprise, "But Chidori is a combination of lightning and physical attack. It shouldn't be like this." The nether release that absorbs all chakra, and the steel release that blocks all physical attacks. Hiriko opened his arms as if showing off his masterpiece. "I have these 2 Kekkei Genkai at the same time." These 2 Kekkei Genkai appeared in the same person. Rin covered her mouth in shock. Doesn't this mean that he's already in an invincible position? How is this possible? Kakashi was really surprised this time. You, an ordinary person, not only succeeded in transplanting a Kekkei Genkai, you even have 2 Kekkei Genkai at the same time. If it weren't for the fact that I had to carefully choose a suitable Kekkei Genkai, I would have more than 2 Kekkei Genkai by now. Hiriko shook his head slightly, then smiled. "But it doesn't matter, I will soon have a 3rd Kekkei Genkai." Kakashi gently touched his left eye. "So you really took a fancy to it? I'm sorry, but this is a precious gift left to me by a friend. I can't let you take it away." Hiriko smiled indifferently. "It doesn't matter, I will take it myself, but if I do it myself, I won't be too gentle." "Then let's give it a try." Kakashi bit his finger and slapped the blood contract on the ground. Summoning Jutsu. With a few howls, 8 ninja dogs appeared in front of everyone's eyes. "Ninja dogs?" Hiriko chuckled. "Are you here to deliver dog meat to me? Brats these days are really rude." Parker said with disdain. "Don't you know that dogs are man's best friend?" "Yes, yes," Blue echoed. "On behalf of all dog lovers, I express my strong condemnation." Hiriko's mouth twitched. "You are a dog yourself. That's why I said I'm a representative." Blue snorted, then turned around and asked, "Kakashi, where did you find such an idiotic enemy?" "You." Hiriko was so angry that he laughed and shook his head self-deprecatingly. "Ha, I'm actually bored enough to say such nonsense to you. It seems that loneliness is indeed man's greatest enemy. Next, have you decided how you want to die?" Nether release, evil self-destruction. Hiriko raised his right hand, and a flash of lightning was released. "Is this my Chidori?" Kakashi felt a sense of familiarity from Hiriko's attack. This guy's nether release can absorb attacks and return them. Chapter 252. Everyone dodge quickly, don't attack rashly. Kakashi calmly analyzed while moving. Any probing attack will be absorbed by him and become his strength. Is this guy so evil? Parker was startled and hurriedly ran away. Then how do we fight? Find the right opportunity and stagger your attacks. Kakashi was very clear-headed. He wasn't scared by the so-called perfect cooperation of the 2 Kekkei Genkai. No matter how powerful a ninjutsu is, it's based on chakra. Unless this guy is a tailed beast like Senpai, it's absolutely impossible for him to use these 2 Kekkei Genkai all the time. This means that as long as they stagger their attacks and seize the opportunity when this guy is using the Kekkei Genkai, they can cause effective damage. As Kakashi's ninja dog, Parker and the other dogs quickly understood. The 8 dogs quickly ran around Hiriko, while Kakashi stood on the side, waiting for the right opportunity to put psychological pressure on Hiriko. Lin stood in the distance, holding a few shurikens ready to throw them at any time. Just as Hiriko was about to get distracted by the pressure, Kakashi suddenly shouted, "Now!" After hearing Kakashi's order, Blue took the lead and opened his mouth to bite Hiriko. Although he has 2 powerful Kekkei Genkai, after all he's not a fighter and his taijutsu is a mess, so Hiriko dodged sideways and sent his head into the dog's mouth. Blue was also stunned for a moment. It's the first time he saw someone so cooperative. Hiriko was embarrassed, but he still managed to maintain his character. A cold voice came out from his mouth. "Even if I take the initiative to cooperate with your attack, you can't hurt me." Looking at the kobold's head in the dog's mouth, Kakashi was silent for a while, then decisively ordered, "Blue, bite his neck." Wind release, air extraction technique. For me who has steel release. What are you doing? Hiriko felt that he was about to suffocate. He opened his mouth with both hands and his 2 short legs crazily kicked. Dark release, evil self-destruction. The remnant of lightning release. Chakra burst in the dog's mouth, and Blue was so shocked that he subconsciously opened his mouth. Hiru felt dizzy as he breathed in air again. Kakashi hurriedly said, "Now." 7 hounds who were already prepared quickly launched an attack. Kakashi also completed the ninjutsu as fast as he could. Great fireball technique. Hiru woke up from the pain and hurriedly used steel release and underworld release. However, at this time, there were more than a dozen wounds on his body from the bites of vicious dogs and shurikens. His clothes were also burned by the flames, and his whole body was covered in blood and scorch marks. Damn it, I was too careless. As expected, you don't have any powerful offensive escape techniques. As expected of Kakashi, to be able to see my weakness in such a short time. Hiru panted heavily. It's true that I didn't have the time to equip it with an offensive Kekkei Genkai, but if you think that the Onigiri technique I've carefully developed is only at this level, then you're sorely mistaken. Spirit communication technique. At the next moment, the tortoise, eagle, and tiger spiritual beasts were summoned. What are you doing? While the 2 of them were confused, they were shocked to find that the 3 spiritual beasts were howling in pain and fusing with Hiru. Then, a monster with the shell of a tortoise, the wings of an eagle, and the fangs and claws of a tiger appeared in their sight. What kind of monster is this?" Rin exclaimed. "Although it's very abnormal, why is it inexplicably handsome?" Parker muttered as he looked at Kakashi, imagining the image of a 9-headed hellhound. Kakashi's face darkened. "Why are you looking at me like that? Compared to those geniuses, compared to those powerful species, we have too many flaws." Hiru's voice came from the mouth of the giant monster. The Onigiri technique is an ultimate ninjutsu that can make up for flaws and create perfect creatures. The current me has already surpassed Orochimaru and Tsunade's geniuses. Genius? You call this ugly monster a genius? Kakashi said disdainfully. Compared to a true genius like Garashi-senpai, someone like you will forever be a stone on the ground. You will never be able to see the starry sky realm in your lifetime. Idiot, it's your own vision that's too low. Only the Onigiri technique being looked down upon is something he absolutely can't accept. Do you think the Onigiri technique is just a simple transplant of Kekkei geniuses? When I gather 5 Kekkei geniuses and satisfy the relationship of the 5 elements in my body, I will become the most perfect ninja. And you will be a part of this great achievement. After saying that, the giant monster clawed down. Just the strength of the body made a sharp whistling sound as it tore through the air. Quickly dodge. Kakashi ordered while jumping on top of the monster's head. After the fusion, will the monster retain the 2 Kekkei geniuses? Thinking of this, Kakashi used Chidori to chop down. However, when the chop hit the monster's body, it instantly stopped. This guy is really a monster. Kakashi whispered. Lightning flashed under his feet, causing him to jump out of the way. In the next moment, the place where he originally stood was quickly filled with lightning. Monster? You will soon become a monster too. The giant monster opened its wings, and the wings with a black metallic luster slashed through the air like steel blades. Using steel style to increase the strength of its body? Kakashi hurriedly moved to dodge. If he was hit by the steel wings, his ending wouldn't be good. Sure enough, the monster wreaked havoc in the forest, and the huge tree that required 2 people to hug tightly was cut down by the steel wings. Parker asked gloomily, Kakashi, what do we do now? We can't deal with such a large summoned beast. Kakashi was silent for a moment. The two of you are responsible for protecting Lin. I will think of a way to deal with the rest. To deal with such a large summoned beast, other than using a large summoned beast to deal with it, only a large-scale ninjutsu or a ninjutsu with strong penetrative power would be effective. His Chidori fits the requirements, but this monster has the ability to absorb chakra, making it difficult to deal with. If it's senior, what would he do? Kakashi thought in his heart. Summoning technique, monstrous strength, immortal technique, illusion technique. Thinking of this, Kakashi felt helpless. Senior has many ways to defeat this monster, but he can't do any of them. If I have to say, is it possible to use illusion technique? He himself is not good at illusion technique, but doesn't he have the Sharingan? Kakashi stood in front of Hirako, the two tomo in his eyes were spinning rapidly and he muttered, "You are a dog, you are a dog." Hirako silently looked at the fool in front of him and slapped him. Chapter 253. Sure enough, it's still not working. Kakashi performed a somersault to get out of the attack range and sighed. Seems like I can only try to stall him and wait for Senpai to finish him off. Hirako, on the other hand, was anxious. Didn't he run out of chakra? How can he still fight? In the beginning, he didn't care about the existence of Namikaze Minato and Shimizu Shushi because he was sure that Kakashi didn't have the Flying Thunder God technique. Even if they were discovered, the time they took to arrive was enough for him to take Kakashi away. However, the failure of the puppet jutsu has led everything to an unknown direction. There's no other way, I'll have to use some other methods. Hirako sighed, gave up on Kakashi and rushed towards Rin's location. So you really want to use me as a breakthrough point? Rin didn't panic, she's faced a lot of dangers in the war, and she's been in similar situations many times before. A medical ninja's priority is to protect themselves, not to cause trouble for their companions. Rin recalled the rules and quickly jumped to the trees around her. You're not slow. Hirako roared and swung his claws to break a tree trunk. The moment the tree tilted and fell, Lin leaped to another tree as if she had been prepared for it. Hirako didn't care, no matter how agile the opponent was, a single failure would mean a total loss. As for him, he only needed to succeed once. Seeing Hirako crazily swinging his claws at the trees around him, Kakashi hurriedly formed hand seals. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. The thick ground suddenly turned into a swamp. Hirako accidentally fell in. But he quickly flapped his wings and escaped from the swamp. Seeing Hirako fly to the sky, Rin quickly jumped down from the tree. If Hirako was below, she would be above. If Hirako was above, she would be below. In short, she needed to avoid the enemy's space. What a slippery little loach. Hirako sighed. But don't think you can avoid me like this. The monster flapped his wings and shot out feathers like arrows. Just as Lin and Kakashi were about to dodge, the feathers suddenly exploded. The shockwave from the explosion caught the two of them off guard and sent them flying. Now, Hirako seized the opportunity to dive down, and while he was descending, he didn't forget to flap his wings to blow away the smoke so that Kakashi could see his movements clearly. Damn it, this damn bastard. Although he knew it was a trap, Kakashi still rushed forward without hesitation. However, someone was even faster than him. A white streak of light streaked across the sky and crashed into the monster at a speed faster than the speed of sound. Immortal technique, meteorite bone fist. Like a meteor, the monster's huge body was sent flying by the punch. It slid on the ground and broke countless trees and rocks before coming to a stop. Looking at the ravaged forest, Parker widened his eyes and screamed, "Woof, what kind of monster-level power is this?" Kakashi first heaved a sigh of relief, then said in shock, "As expected of Senior, you're really too strong." Lin looked at the figure in front of her and waved her arms excitedly. "That's great. Senior is finally here." On the collapsed ground, Hirako struggled to stand up, his big eyes full of shock. What kind of joke is this kind of power? Steel release can only block physical attacks like slashes and collisions, but it can't do anything about the vibrations caused by these attacks. At the very least, Hirako's internal organs were ruptured by this punch. This is a true genius, one that's even stronger than Orochimaru and Tsunade? Hirako couldn't help but be deeply puzzled. Even if he gathered all 5 Kekkei Genkai, could he really defeat this unimaginable monster? Although Garashi already had his suspicions, he still pretended to be puzzled and asked, "Kakashi, what's going on?" "Senpai, this monster is Hirako." Kakashi hurriedly answered. He used a technique called Onigiri to fuse the bodies of 3 summoned beasts. "This is Hirako?" Seeing Garashi's sharp and powerful gaze, Hiriko didn't have time to think. He coughed up blood and fled in a sorry state. But before he could get far, he was stopped by an invisible wall of fire. "Damn it, what's going on?" Hiriko shouted. "This is the power of a barrier." Garashi's calm voice came from behind him. "Stop, you have nowhere to run." "Barrier?" The giant monster shook his head, his voice full of anger. "So this is really a trap for me? If you had run away as soon as you discovered that the puppet spell was no longer effective, you might have been able to escape." Garashi slowly walked over and looked up at the giant monster. "But now it's too late." "Damn it. My great research hasn't been completed yet. How can I fall in a place like this?" Hiriko roared madly and swung his claws at the barrier. And then the barrier broke. Seeing this, the people who set up the barrier in the 4 directions of the forest couldn't believe it. "How is this possible? Even if it's Rinstone, he can't break our barrier with a single blow." Hiriko was overjoyed. Sure enough, even a barrier can't stop the power of nether release. At this time, Kakashi loudly reminded him from afar. "Senpai, he implanted himself with nether release that can absorb chakra, as well as steel release that can resist physical attacks." "It's too late to know that now." Hiriko laughed loudly. "Without the barrier, you can't stop me who can fly." "You seem to be celebrating too early." Garashi's eyes were calm as he calmly formed hand seals. Illusion, confusion. A moment later, Hiriko's eyes became dull. "Dispel the ghost Gara Jetsu." Hearing Garashi's order, Hiriko didn't hesitate to dispel the jutsu. Following that, the 3 summoned beasts separated from his body. An ugly monster that was wrapped in bandages and looked like a ghost baby appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Lin exclaimed, "How did he become like this?" Kakashi's expression was serious. Perhaps this is his original appearance, because the ghost Gara Jutsu transformed him into this half-human half-ghost form. Hiriko, who lost his wings, fell to the ground and woke up in pain. "What's going on? Where's my big pair of wings?" After waking up, Hiriko panicked, then gradually recalled what happened before. "You used an illusion to control me? Absorbing chakra's nether release and steel release that can resist physical attacks. It seems like you're still missing a Kekii Genkai that can resist illusions." Garashi chuckled lightly. "Damn it, if I could get the Sharingan, I wouldn't be afraid of your illusions anymore." Hiriko unwillingly roared. Kakashi had a strange expression. "With the Sharingan, you won't be afraid of Senpai's illusions?" Shunyan Senpai had something to say about this. At this time, Asma's group of 4 came over. "Garashi, what do we do now? Do we bring him back?" Garashi nodded. "Bring him back to the village." But before he could finish, Hiriko looked at him and shouted excitedly, "Kill me!" Chapter 254. Hearing Hiriko's roar, everyone was dumbfounded. "What's wrong with this guy?" Garashi also asked in confusion. "Kill you? Dying in your hands is better than being laughed at by those mediocre people when I go back." Hiriko's eyes were filled with madness. "I don't want to let the Kujira Jutsu disappear like this." Garashi frowned. "What do you mean?" "Take away my Kekii Genkai and Kujira Jutsu." Hiriko stared at Garashi. "I know that with your medical ninjutsu you can definitely do it." Kakashi and the others couldn't believe what they were hearing. What the hell is this guy trying to do? Giving away his Kekii Genkai and his research results to the enemy? Asma cautiously reminded, "Garashi, be careful of this guy's trap." Kurenai nodded. "This guy definitely doesn't have any good intentions." "Idiot. How can mediocre people like you understand?" Hiriko shouted excitedly. "I have been researching for decades and finally came up with this great result. The only thing I absolutely don't want to give up is the Kujira Jutsu. Because this is the only proof that I can leave behind in this world." Everyone was taken aback by the excitement in Hiriko's voice. Hiriko didn't pay any attention to them and just stared at Shushi with burning eyes. "With your great talent, coupled with the combination of dark release, steel release and Sharingan, not to mention the Kage of the various villages, even reaching the height of the first Hokage is not impossible." Listening to what he said, everyone's mind was also filled with excitement. Indeed, nether release and steel release are very powerful Kekii Genkai. If they can obtain these 2 powers, even an ordinary ninja can become very strong, let alone Garashi. Moreover, these 2 Kekii Genkai are just the lower limit. Transplanting more Kekii Genkai can undoubtedly make one stronger. However, looking at Hiriko's appearance, they couldn't help but feel a little scared. The price of this power seems to be a bit too high. If it was an ordinary person, they may choose to gamble on strength, but they are all geniuses. and their desire for strength is not that great. Especially for Garashi, isn't improving strength as simple as eating and drinking for him? Under the expectant eyes of Hiriko and the worried eyes of Kurenai and Shizune, Garashi shook his head slightly. Sorry, I refuse. Hiriko was taken aback and shouted anxiously, Why? If you feel that my performance is not satisfactory, then it's because the Kujira Jutsu is not complete. Before I gather all 5 bloodline inheritances, the Guayula art is just a simple method of transplanting bloodlines and fusing with spiritual beasts. Saying that, Hiriko's voice, K's once you complete Kekkei Genkai's body and meet the conditions use. He might even become the legendary 6 Dao immortal. Looking at Hiriko's expectant eyes, Shushi shook his head. Compared to external forces, I believe in my own strength. If it's really like what Hiriko said, he may be interested in giving it a try. However, even the average Otsutsuki can't achieve an immortal body, and collecting 5 Kekkei Genkai can't produce a power that surpasses Otsutsuki's? Of course, if you say that collecting 5 Kekkei Genkai can produce a qualitative change, then Kurenai is more convinced. After all, Kekkei Genkai is the fusion of the 7 attributes of chakra. Thinking about it this way, the idea of Kujira Jutsu may be able to give him some inspiration, but he can't do it himself. Therefore, he still needed someone who was willing to be a guinea pig for his experiments. Thinking of this, Garashi said in a deep voice, Moreover, it's just 5 Kekkei Genkai, I can develop it myself. Why should I plunder and transplant other people's Kekkei Genkai? Hiriko's eyes widened, he was shocked speechless by Garashi's aura. A mere 5 Kekkei Genkai, is this something a human can say? However, when he thought of the other party's achievements, he was speechless again. This guy's talent is simply too terrifying. For geniuses like Orochimaru and Tsunade, he still has the confidence to catch up with them by relying on technology, but facing this boy in front of him for the first time, he felt the powerlessness of science. Seeing Hiriko's look of shock, Garashi sighed and said, Although the development of Kujira Jutsu is stained with evil, there is no distinction between good and evil. I will find a suitable successor for you to pass down this jutsu. Hiriko nodded repeatedly, then looked at Asuma and the others with expectant eyes. Do any of you want my Kujira Jutsu? Kurenai said with a look of disgust. No. Asuma chuckled. If I become like you, I'll definitely be beaten to death by the old man because I can't have any descendants. Every time he refused, Hiriko's head sank a bit, and in the end even he began to doubt himself. Is my Kujira Jutsu that bad? It's clearly my masterpiece that transcends time. At this time, a cold voice suddenly sounded, Give it to me. Hiriko suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the voice as if he was saved. Everyone also looked at Mizuki with surprise. Mizuki, what are you doing? Have you really thought about it? Mizuki said in a cold voice, You are all geniuses, but I'm not the same. I'm a mediocre ninja like him, and I only got to where I am today by luck. So, I won't let go of any opportunity to improve my strength. What? Garashi shook his head slightly and looked at Mizuki with an encouraging look. Sage mode is not something you can learn by luck. Don't underestimate yourself, you got to where you are today because of your own efforts. No, I got to where I am today because of your help, Garashi. Mizuki was secretly grateful, but he said, Garashi, I will have to trouble you to perform surgery on me again. Everyone thought he was talking about the time when Garashi treated him when he was a child, but Garashi understood that this, again, was referring to the time when he transplanted Hashirama's cells. Don't worry, there won't be a problem. Seeing Mizuki's determination, Asuma was suddenly awakened. He is a genius in everyone's eyes, he is Naruto's father, he has an unimaginable opportunity, he was surpassed by Garashi, after all, he is a monster beyond common sense, but now even Mizuki is catching up with him. No, after transplanting his Kekkei Genkai, Mizuki should have surpassed him. Thinking of this, Asuma secretly clenched his fists. After going back, I will seriously consult my old man, I must not fall behind them. Hiriko was relieved and looked at Mizuki with an excited look. Very good, you will not regret the choice you made today. Seeing Hiriko's reaction, everyone was shocked. He is obviously going to die, and even his Kekkei Genkai is about to be taken away, but not only is he not afraid, he is happy about it. In a sense, this guy is also a very pure ninja. Chapter 255. That night, along with the painful growls, everyone's mood fluctuated. Finally, when the sound returned to normal, under everyone's expectant eyes, Mizuki came out of the temporary medical tent. Asuma ran up and looked at him from head to toe. Huh? Why do I feel that you didn't become ugly? Is it because you were already ugly so the change wasn't obvious? Mizuki squinted his eyes. Idiot. He's just an ordinary ninja. Of course, the effect of the surgery can't be compared to Garashi. Asuma was dumbfounded. In other words, Hiriko's appearance is completely due to his own mess, and the Onigiri Jutsu doesn't have any ugly side effects? Maybe. Oh, what a loss. If you really want to transform while the war is still going on, catch a few enemy Kekkei Genkai and ask Garashi to transform you, but don't blame me for not reminding you. If you don't persist, I can't guarantee what will happen to you. Mizuki said with a hint of fear in his eyes. Perhaps it's because he has already transplanted the Mokutan Genkai. The rejection of these two Kekkei Genkai was extremely strong. At that time his body almost collapsed, and even with his endurance he couldn't help but scream in pain. Recalling Mizuki's scream before, Asuma suddenly stopped. He knows Mizuki's perseverance, and even Mizuki almost couldn't persist, so his success rate shouldn't be too high. Indeed, this time I was a bit reckless. Garashi came out a few steps behind Mizuki and said with a heavy voice, the rejection of one Kekkei Genkai is still within the acceptable range, but transplanting two Kekkei Genkai at the same time will put a great burden on the body, and if you're not careful your genes will collapse and you will become like Hiriko. Even for Mizuki, I only dared to let him try it because he has Sage Mode. Kakashi touched his left eye and said sympathetically, according to Senpai, my eye is a perfect fit, but even so, it has a defect that it can't be closed. It can be seen that there is considerable risk in any kind of blood transplants. Then I'll pass. Asuma laughed twice and quickly changed the topic. By the way, Mizuki, how do you feel now? Can you use those two Kekkei Genkai normally? Very good. Shuei-mu lowered his head and looked at his hands. His eyes were filled with amazement. This feeling of power is really intoxicating. He had been oppressed for too long. He had mastered a powerful bloodline like the wood release, but he didn't dare to use it because of his misgivings. He had mastered a powerful ability like the immortal mode, but it also had the drawbacks of a long activation time and a short duration. It was difficult to use it in battle. Now he finally had a powerful strength that could match him. Although they were all bloodline inheritances that were easy to beat up, at least they could buy him some time to activate Sage Mode. Although the blood lineage is very powerful, don't rely too much on these two abilities. Garashi warned seriously. After all, Dark Release and Steel Release are not passive. If the enemy's attack is faster than your ninjutsu, these two Kekkei Genkai won't work. Hearing Garashi's warning, Shuei-mu calmed down from his excitement. Indeed, wasn't Hiriko himself the best proof? Encountering an unreasonable expert like Garashi, no matter how unsolvable the ability was, it could still be broken by brute force. His own strength was the most important thing. Shuei-mu nodded solemnly. I know. With my current strength, I still have a long way to go before I can help you, Garashi. Asuma's tone was a little sour. You've improved a lot this time. With these two Kekkei Genkai, most jonins won't be your opponent. It's not as exaggerated as you say. Shuei-mu was very sober and said calmly, at most, I'm on par with the enemy. They can't do anything to me and I can't do anything to them. Shizun nodded thoughtfully. That's true. After all, you need some time to activate Sage Mode, and if the enemy finds that they can't do anything to you, they won't be stupid enough to stay there and wait for you to use your big move. Kurenai smiled with her hands behind her back. It's already very good. At least our team has a character like you who specializes in attracting firepower. It will be much easier for us to do missions. Shuei-mu's face turned black. The ability he obtained through suffering and torture wasn't for the sake of taking a beating. Kakashi said from the side, you now have two Kekkei Genkai. To reach the final form mentioned by Hiriko, you still need 3 more. You must hurry up. If you miss this battle, it will be difficult to capture enemy Kekkei Genkai again. Hearing Kakashi's words, everyone didn't show any strange expressions. Just like Kirin's transplanting of Byakugan, it's very reasonable to obtain spoils of war on the battlefield. Hiriko was wanted mostly because he attacked a ninja from the same village as him. Should be 3. Shuei-mu muttered to himself, then calmly said, to reach the final form, you need to meet the 3 conditions mentioned by Hiriko. Heaven, Earth, and Man. Man is the limit of the 5 Kekkei Genkai, Earth is Mount Sumeru, and Sky is the celestial phenomenon of the Golden Ring solar eclipse. Although there are 2 to 5 solar eclipses per year, if you want to observe one from Mount Sumeru, the cycle will be very long. The next one will be more than 10 years later. More than 10 years? Rin exclaimed, will it take that long? Shuei-mu nodded. It's precisely because there's still a long time before the ceremony that Hiriko didn't capture Kakashi the first time, but intended to use him as a vessel to nourish the Sharingan. But this is also good. If there's enough time, we can slowly choose a suitable Kekkei Genkai. Kurenai nodded slightly. A suitable Kekkei Genkai. Asuma rubbed his chin. If it's the old man, he will most likely choose Sekai Genkai. Sekai Genkai? Rin's expression was a little puzzled. Although the ability to become invisible is indeed powerful, but for someone of Naruto-sama's level, shouldn't it be easy to perceive the existence of the enemy? Asuma winked. It's too wasteful to use Sekai Genkai in combat. For reconnaissance? Rin tilted her head. But does Naruto-sama need to? Seeing that Rin wanted to ask more, Kakashi coughed twice. Let's stop here, it's getting late, everyone should go back and rest early. With that said, he glared fiercely at Asuma. Asuma knew that he was in the wrong, so he scratched his nose and smiled. Haha, I'm a little tired. I haven't finished asking yet. Rin muttered in a low voice, and everyone set up their tents and prepared to go to sleep. Garashi walked towards the tent where he performed the surgery. You guys go to sleep first, I'll find a place to bury Hiriko. Everyone wasn't worried. With Garashi's strength, it's impossible for him to encounter any danger. If he really encounters an enemy, it's the enemy who will be in danger. Chapter 256. In the depths of the forest, there were only a few scattered stars, and it was eerily quiet. But for the dead, this kind of environment could actually prevent them from being disturbed. After burying Hiriko, Garashi activated his perception barrier and unsealed the Shinigami's mask from the scroll he carried with him. His right hand brushed the mask and a soulless spirit floated out of it. The reason he left the tent a few steps behind Mizuki was to collect Hiriko's soul. After all, Hiriko was a rare scientific talent in the ninja world. It would be a pity if he died just like that. Hiriko, who had just recovered from the dead, didn't understand the situation and asked in confusion, "Is this the underworld?" "Sorry to disappoint you, but this is still the modern world." A gentle voice came from the side, waking Hiriko up from his stupor. Turning around, Hiriko exclaimed in disbelief, "Why are you here?" Garashi smiled gently. "What's the matter, surprised to see me?" "I just didn't expect." Hiriko squeezed out an ugly smile. The light of the wood leaf, who is said to be the embodiment of all beautiful words, would actually play with other people's souls. Garashi shook his head lightly. "I have no interest in playing with your soul. If I have to say, I should be fulfilling your wish." "Fulfilling my wish?" Hiriko's soul trembled as he looked at Garashi with excitement. "You are willing to let me continue the experiment of the Anajirai Jutsu?" Looking at Hiriko's excited expression, Garashi felt a little embarrassed. It's one thing to squeeze out all the value of others when they were alive, but now he's not even letting them go after death. Even the capitalists in his previous life were kinder than him. However, for Hiriko this should be considered a blessing, right? Thinking of this, Garashi felt at ease. "I do want to borrow your ability, but in my opinion your Anajirai Jutsu is not a success." Being criticized by a layman, Hiriko was furious, and he didn't care about the situation he was in. "What do you know? The Anajirai Jutsu is an ultimate ninjutsu that can transform an ordinary ninja into a perfect form." Garashi was not angry and calmly discussed, "What is real perfection? Have you seen a real perfect ninja?" Hiriko was suddenly speechless and said with some dissatisfaction, "Have you ever seen a real perfect ninja?" Garashi spread out his hands and said innocently, "I didn't say that I can transform into a perfect ninja." Hiriko was speechless. After a moment of silence he said with some doubt mixed in his longing, "Immortal, able to learn all ninjutsu should be the perfect ninja, right?" Garashi continued to bicker. "Then what makes you think that the Anajirai technique can grant immortality?" "Alright, that's just my guess." The corner of Hiriko's eyes twitched, and he reluctantly admitted that he was suspected of false propaganda, but he still insisted. "But this conjecture is not without basis. Every ninja knows that chakra is the combination of physical and spiritual energy, and the complete exhaustion of chakra means death. So what if one absorbs chakra from nature and reverts chakra into physical and spiritual energy?" Garashi asked with great interest. "Does it mean that one's vitality can also be replenished?" Hiriko nodded excitedly. "Infinite vitality means that no matter what kind of fatal injury one receives, one can instantly recover. It's hard to say whether it will extend one's life, but it can definitely achieve the immortal body I mentioned before." Garashi nodded thoughtfully. But what does this have to do with your Onigiri technique? Hiriko proudly said, to achieve the immortal body there are two requirements, one is to absorb chakra from nature, and the second is to revert chakra back to its original state, both of which require one to comprehend the essence of chakra, and the Onigiri technique is to establish the relationship between the 5 elements in the body, and then comprehend the truth of all things. Seeing that Garashi seemed to be shocked by his words, Hiriko nodded with satisfaction and then explained, in fact, this is similar to the principle of Kekkei Genkai and Kekkei Genkai elimination, both of which are integrated with chakra, but they are completely superior to the other two, because it contains the complete power of the 5 elements. Hiriko looked at Garashi proudly, waiting for the other party to be shocked, but what greeted him was a slightly disappointed sigh. Only the 5 elements, no yin and yang? Hiriko frowned. Are you kidding me? Yin and yang are completely different attributes from the 5 elements, how can this be? Looking at the forest blooming in Garashi's palm, Hiriko muttered to himself in a daze, would release? No, I can feel it more clearly in my soul form, the power contained in it is clearly the yang attribute of chakra, right? This is incredible, it's simply incomprehensible. Hiriko muttered to himself, then looked at Garashi with a feverish gaze. How did you do it? The forest in Garashi's palm quickly went through a cycle of life and death, then dissipated into the wind. This is the result of my research on the yin-yang release. You don't have to pay too much attention to it, I'm just showing you the correct path. It had to be said that Blackie's body was truly mysterious. In the past year, although he hadn't made any progress in the development of the yin-yang release, his understanding of the yin and yang releases had reached an extremely high level. The result of his research on the yin release was reflected in the Shinigami's mask, while the result of his research on the yang release was the advancement of the wood release false, to the wood release true, stage. Of course, this was also thanks to his proficiency in the yin and yang releases. The correct path. Hiriko wasn't disappointed, instead he was very excited. I really died for the right reason. If I didn't die, how could I come in contact with the truth of this world? Garashi nodded slightly. I told you this is a blessing. Since you didn't consider the fusion of the yin release, why did you take the Sharingan? Hiriko was silent for a moment. The Kekkei Genkai of the 5 elements are the fusion of the 2 chakra attributes. Meeting the conditions of the 5 elements, it's reasonable to say that you only need 3 Kekkei Genkai. I took the Sharingan more for the final ritual. The final ritual is too important, I have to carefully control each chakra in order to succeed, and to do this I need to rely on the observation power of the Sharingan. Is that so? I understand. After a pause, Garashi asked again, what is the principle of the 3 conditions of the ritual? Completing the ritual requires a lot of chakra. The only thing I can think of is to use the power of nature. Hiriko explained, according to my observation, the solar eclipse seems to be the time when chakra is the most active in nature. As for Mount Sumeru, it's also the place with the highest concentration of chakra I can find. Chakra is the most active? Garashi secretly thought. The moon is the product of the Rikudu Sennin seal on Kagaya. Will the seal weaken during the solar eclipse? Hiriko didn't know what Garashi was thinking. Seeing that Garashi didn't speak, he continued, the 5 elements Kekkei Genkai are easy to deal with, but the yin release Kekkei Genkai is the dojutsu, and the yang release Kekkei Genkai is the physique. It's been a long time since the shinobi world has seen a physique Kekkei Genkai that represents the yang release. You don't have to worry about this, I will temporarily seal you and release you when the time is right. Garashi said in a deep voice. I understand. With that said, Hiriko took a deep look at Garashi, mastering the knowledge and mysteries beyond the shinobi world, and even taking people like me under your banner, what do you want to do? Garashi smiled slightly, is this important? Hiriko was stunned for a moment, but he immediately smiled. Indeed, it's not important as long as I can continue my research and let me see the complete form of the ghost germinal jutsu with my own eyes. What do you want to do with me? It's easy to deal with smart people. Garashi shrugged. However, there is one thing I want to remind you. In order to keep this secret, I will change your identity and part of your memory. From now on, you will appear in this world with a new identity. A new identity? Hiriko said calmly, the name and appearance are nothing but a subsidiary product of oneself. As long as you follow your heart, it doesn't matter. Chapter 257. It has been 2 months since the operation to capture Hiriko, and this operation didn't cause the slightest ripple. Most of the Woodleaf villagers didn't even know that such a rebellious Nin was captured and killed. After all, Hiriko wasn't famous to begin with, and their operation was carried out in secret. After Sandame learned of the matter, he sighed and said, "What a pity." Eastern Camp. Two figures passed by each other, making the sound of kunai colliding. One of them stopped and lightning burst out of his palm. "Be careful, I'm going to use Chidori." Under the activation of lightning release chakra, Kakashi rushed towards the opponent as fast as lightning. "Come on, I won't lose to a pirated Uchiha like you." On the other side, the three Tomo in his Sharingan rotated rapidly, and as if the time around him had slowed down, he dodged the lightning at the last moment. Kakashi stopped and shook his wrist. I'm not going to fight anymore, my chakra is almost used up." Shunin complained helplessly, "You are too shameless, I was just about to fight back." Having said that, he closed his Sharingan obediently. Seeing that the two had stopped fighting, the onlookers gathered around. "Kakashi, you can't last too long." Guy patted Kakashi's shoulder with a concerned look on his face. "Starting tomorrow, let's do handstand exercises together." "I really should strengthen my training, but..." Kakashi squinted his eyes. "It's too embarrassing to train with you." Lose face? Guy took 2 steps back and looked at Kakashi excitedly. "It's obviously a beautiful scenery when I go out to train, even the enemy praises me as a weirdo." Black lines appeared on Kakashi's forehead. "Are you sure this is a compliment?" Asuma was amazed. "The improvement of the 3 Tomo is so great? Even Kakashi's Chidori can be dodged." Shunin touched his eyes with a sad look. "If I could, I would rather not have this improvement." Kakashi also had a sad look on his face. "Yes. If I could, I would rather not complete the Chidori Jutsu." The corner of Asuma's mouth twitched slightly. He hadn't even mentioned the bordered soil, so how did he get into trouble? Seeing Lin's unfriendly gaze, Asuma hurriedly changed the topic. "Senior Shunyan, can the 3 Tomo Jade clearly see Garashi's movements?" "I can barely see Garashi's movements, but..." Shunyan shook his head slightly. "It's useless even if my body can't keep up. If it were Guy using his Sharingan it would be better." Guy, who was nagging and harassing Kakashi, was startled and looked at Shunin in shock. "Shunin-senpai, don't curse yourself." Shunyan's face darkened. "He was just saying it casually and you're still hung up on it?" Just as he was about to use Genjutsu to talk to Guy, a Chunin ran over. "Jonin Garashi, Orochimaru-sama asked you to go to the conference room. There is an emergency." "Emergency? What emergency can there be now?" Guy looked puzzled. "It can't be that the other villages have joined forces again, right?" Garashi also had some doubts, but he didn't let the visitor wait for a long time. "Sorry to trouble you, I'll go now." In the conference room. Among the 4 giants of the Eastern Front, Garashi was the last to arrive. Come on, something big really happened." Jiraiya waved with a gossipy face. "Sorry I'm late." Garashi stepped forward and sat down. "What the hell is going on?" Orochimaru clenched his hands. Simply put, Reikage died. Minato, who like Garashi hadn't eaten the melon, was shocked. "How is that possible? With Reikage's strength, even if we join forces, it would be difficult to kill him, right? If Reikage wants to escape, of course no one can kill him." Orochimaru shook his head and sighed. "But what if he doesn't retreat? Fight to the death." Garashi pondered over the meaning of the words and asked tentatively. "Did Rock Crypsis finally make a move?" Orochimaru nodded. "Inoki is really old. Either he doesn't make a move, or he goes straight for Yunin's vital point." Minato was puzzled. "Yunin's vital point?" Jiraiya laughed and explained, "Of course it's the loot. Yunin's bandits have always been robbing things like mice in winter. I don't know how much they have secretly accumulated. This time they were almost wiped out by Rock Crypsis." "Mice in winter?" Garashi couldn't help but smile. This metaphor was quite vivid. Did Reikage fight with Rock Crypsis for some loot? Minato still couldn't believe that Reikage, who had the strongest defense, was killed for such a reason. Jiraiya stroked his chin. Not all. In addition to the loot, he also had to cover the retreat of other Yunin's ninjas. After all, the enemy was an army of 10,000 people. Garashi was shocked. An army of 10,000 people? Orochimaru nodded. "I have to say, that old guy is really powerful. He dragged out thousands of Rock Crypsis' ninjas before dying of exhaustion." Jiraiya sighed. "This is also Inoki's mistake. If he was here, Reikage wouldn't have dared to fight with 10,000 people. In this regard, Reikage should thank Garashi." Orochimaru laughed. "Without a leg, even Inoki's courage is a lot smaller. It's not so much that he's timid but more cautious." Garashi sighed. After all, the younger generation of rock Crypsis is lacking, and Kitsuchi's arm was broken by me. He has to hold on until someone can take over the rock Crypsis. That's true. Jiraiya sighed. Speaking of which, the third Kazekage disappeared before the war began, the third Tsuchikage was crippled by Garashi, and the third Raikage died on the battlefield. Among the Kages of the villages, only the old man and the third Mizukage are still strong. Speaking of this, several people's expressions became strange. Compared with the other Kages, Naruto-sama is not only strong, but also relaxed. Realizing that he seemed to be insinuating something, Jiraiya laughed twice and returned to the topic. Today I called you here mainly to raise your vigilance. Although Raikage's death has nothing to do with us, it's not surprising that Yunin will do something crazy. Who knows if they will go crazy and drag us down with them? Orochimaru said in a deep voice. Indeed, we should be careful. Yunin is a fierce wolf. The closer we are to the end, the more we have to be careful of their counterattack before they die. Minato naturally supported his teacher. I understand, I will strengthen the patrol. Garashi nodded solemnly. I will ask everyone to be more careful. You don't have to be so serious. Jiraiya laughed. Yunin was originally fighting with Kirin, and now they were attacked by rock Crypsis. As long as their Yondaime-sama's head wasn't caught by a door, it's unlikely that they will come to trouble us. Chapter 258. At the same time in Kirin's camp, all the Jonins were happy and they were about to celebrate with drums and gongs. Ah, that bastard Raikage finally got what he deserved. He schemed against us and now it's finally his turn to be schemed against. Rock Crypsis is not a good thing, the former Raikage died in their hands. The Mizukage was also in a good mood, and he almost couldn't hold back his crazy smile. Just as everyone was celebrating, a Jonin suddenly said, Mizukage-sama, what should we do next? Fight back against Yunin with rock Crypsis? The Mizukage opened his eyes a little. What do you think? When it came to fighting back against Yunin, everyone suddenly discussed more. Of course we have to fight back. Yunin is a despicable bastard, I don't like them. We have suffered heavy losses in this war, and we must get compensation from Yunin. Of course, some of these voices were against it. Yunin's people are crazy, our counterattack will only lead to their stronger revenge. It's no good, they can even sacrifice Raikage for some spoils of war, we can't take advantage of such a lunatic. Seeing someone say the point, the Mizukage nodded secretly. He really didn't want to be entangled with Yunin anymore, the problem is that he has to be able to take advantage of it. When they were almost done arguing, the Mizukage made a decision. Let's stop here, there's no need to provoke Yunin's group of crazy dogs. Although many people were unhappy, no one dared to openly oppose the Mizukage's order in the Blood Mist village. Yes. The Mizukage slightly nodded and then changed the topic. Yunin's matter is decided, now let's talk about how to get back the ninja sword from Woodleaf. Many people were silent. With Woodleaf's current momentum, it's not easy to get back the ninja sword from them. At this time the most active Jonin suggested, Mizukage-sama, we might as well learn from rock Crypsis in this regard. The Mizukage was a little interested. Oh. The Jonin who made the suggestion licked his lips. I heard that the rock Crypsis had a tough attitude. They used their life and death attitude to win Woodleaf's peace talks. We can also learn to be tough and show that if they don't give us back our ninja swords, we will fight them to the death. The rest of the Jonins were shocked by his proposal. How can we fight Woodleaf with our current strength? Are you trying to kill us all? We're just pretending. The Jonin who made the suggestion waved his hand and said, we just want to let Woodleaf see our determination. The Mizukage was a little moved. This? The Jonin who made the proposal struck while the iron was hot. In fact, this is the same reason why we don't want to deal with Cloud Village. They're all lunatics. Normal people will always stay away from such lunatics, so this time we should learn from them and become lunatics. Become lunatics? The Mizukage was faintly excited. What are you going to do? Catch a Woodleaf ninja, seal the Sanbai in his body, seal this part of his memory, and then secretly put it back to Woodleaf. This is equivalent to placing a time bomb in Woodleaf that no one knows about. The Jonin who spoke had a flash of light in his eyes. Then we will threaten Woodleaf. If they don't return the ninja swords, we will detonate this bomb in their village. The Mizukage was still hesitant. It won't really detonate, right? How can it be? Kirin, who was already in the form of black, laughed. As long as they promise to return the ninja swords, we will send someone to pull the Sanbai out. A jonin next to him asked weakly. But if we pull the Sanbai out, the Woodleaf ninja will also die, right? Black Zetsu controlled the Miss Jonin and said. As long as it's not a particularly important person, he's dead. Do you think Konoha will turn against us because of one person? That's true. Then it's decided. The Mizukage made a decision. Akashi, I will leave the specific matters of this task to you. Yes. One day later. The Mizukage was quite surprised to see Akashi and the unconscious girl beside him. You decided on a good candidate so soon? Akashi nodded. While Woodleaf's attention is focused on the war between Yunin and Rock Crypsis, we can seize the time to act. That's true. The Mizukage said. Did you bring the container to seal the Sanbai? A jonin cautiously came forward with the jar. Mizukage-sama, please be careful. Well, you can put it down. The jonin put the jar in front of the girl and quickly retreated to the distance. It's about to start. The Mizukage took a deep breath and opened the lid of the jar. At the moment when the Sanbai woke up, the Mizukage quickly sealed it in the girl. The Sanbai's strength was not weak, but after all, he just woke up and didn't understand the situation, so he was quickly sealed in the girl's body. This guy is really not honest. The Mizukage exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Even for him, sealing the Sanbai was not easy. Perhaps because the Sanbai didn't want to be quiet, Rin frowned and woke up. Where am I? Where is Kakashi? For you this may be hell. Hearing Akashi's threat, the surrounding jonins laughed. The name of the village of the blood fog will scare people to tears. Such a cute little girl must be beautiful when she cries. Hearing these voices, Rin's memory before her coma gradually recovered. Yes, I was caught by Kirin's ninja, but why did they? Suddenly, a powerful chakra riot in her body. What is this? The Mizukage quickly printed and patted her on her body. The Sanbai is not honest again. The restlessness in her body gradually subsided, but Rin didn't notice it. She suddenly looked up and asked in amazement. Sanbai. The Mizukage laughed. Yes, you are now the Sanbai's Jinchuriki. Why do you want me to be? Being able to master such an A-class ninjutsu as a chunin, Rin was of course not stupid. She quickly thought of a possibility. You want to make the tailed beast in my body go berserk and hurt the people in the village? Although there was some misunderstanding, the Mizukage didn't intend to explain more to her. Anyway, this little girl's memory must be sealed. Akashi said, Mizukage-sama, why don't you go back and rest first? I will seal the memory and then transport you. Sealing the Sanbai was indeed a bit tiring, so the Mizukage didn't refuse. Then I will trouble you. Rin's face was pale and she seemed to have made up her mind. While everyone's attention was on the Mizukage, she used the chakra scalpel to stab herself in the chest. However, when the knife reached 2 centimeters away from her chest, it couldn't go any further. How? Akashi laughed. Don't struggle, I have placed a curse seal on you so you can't hurt yourself. Rin bit her lower lip. She can't even kill herself? In order to prevent you from messing up the plan, I will temporarily forget this part of the memory. Seeing the Mizukage walking towards her step by step, Rin helplessly retreated. No, don't. Unfortunately, her struggle was in vain. Soon Rin fell asleep with dull eyes. This should be enough. As long as you are a little emotional, you can break the seal. Akashi smiled. Next, I will arrange the scene of the reunion of the 3 people you want to see the most. Chapter 259. Outside the Woodleaf camp, Kakashi was pacing back and forth with a complicated expression. Damn it. What the hell should I do now? A small team that had just returned from patrolling the outside world passed by and greeted him with a smile. Kakashi, why are you hiding here and not going in? Isn't Rin with you? Haha, you aren't going to the front line again, are you? Kakashi looked down at the note in the palm of his hand as if he didn't hear her, and walked away without any response. Seeing this, a ninja in the team was dissatisfied. This guy is too arrogant, he doesn't even want to talk to us? The ninja next to him was also in a bad mood. Garashi-sama is much more talented than him, but I don't see him like this. The third ninja in the team was calm. Forgive him, since the death of bordered soil, he hasn't been right. However, the other 2 didn't buy it. How can there be no deaths in war? He's a genius, but his heart isn't that strong. The few of them grumbled as they walked into the camp. After walking a long distance away from the camp, Kakashi looked around and saw that there was no one around, and then he opened the note again. As a punishment for killing our compatriots, come to the quiet forest alone at noon today. If you dare to inform others, your little girlfriend will die. After reading this paragraph, Kakashi felt that his chest was about to explode with anger. Damn it, is it because I killed too many enemies in order to complete the agreed mission with the Uchiha clan so I incurred this kind of revenge? But why is it Rin? Why didn't she directly attack me? Kakashi pulled his hair frantically, and his eyes were full of pain. No, I can't go and inform Senpai and Senpai. The enemy can secretly send the note to me. Maybe he is watching my every move from somewhere. If he finds out, Rin will die. I can't gamble with Rin's safety. But if I rush over like this, there is no point except to die, and the enemy will most likely not let Rin go. Damn it, what the hell should I do? Kakashi held his head with both hands. Calm down, there must be some way. Calm down, hurry up and get cold. Kakashi was forcing himself to calm down when he suddenly felt a chill in front of his chest. Right, the ice crystal pendant. Kakashi's eyes flashed with ecstasy. During the last operation to capture Hiriko, he didn't use the pendant and had been carrying it with him all this time. After all, this was a life-saving opportunity, so he naturally wouldn't waste it. The ice crystal pendant hasn't been used yet, which means that the enemy doesn't know the effects of the pendant. As long as I break the pendant, Senior will definitely realize that something is wrong. The more Kakashi thought about it, the more he felt that it was feasible. But when he was about to act, he suddenly hesitated. No, I still can't. The ice crystal pendant can only let you know that something has happened here, but it can't tell you what it is. If you suddenly appear in front of me and I don't have time to explain the situation, the enemy might already know that I used some method to inform the reinforcements. Kakashi rested his chin on his right hand and thought to himself, I have to let Senpai understand the seriousness of the matter before he arrives. In other words, I have to break the pendant after arriving at the agreed place. In this way, when Senpai arrives, he will know that Rin has been kidnapped. However, this also means that I have to hold on until Senpai arrives. Thinking of this, Kakashi felt that his heart was heavy. This is a trap deliberately set by the enemy, which shows that he is in an absolute disadvantage. In this case, it won't be easy to hold on until Senpai arrives. But I can only fight. Kakashi touched his left eye and remembered Obito's last words, I'll leave Rin to you. His eyes gradually became firm. Whether it's for Rin or for Obito, I must not fail. At the same time, Kirin's team of 50 people was moving forward carefully. A Jonin looked at the unconscious Rin on the stretcher and asked with some doubts, Akane, didn't Mizuki-sama say that we should secretly send her back? Wouldn't it be too conspicuous if we go with so many people? Hearing him mention it, several Jonins next to him also questioned in a low voice. Yes, Woodleaf has a barrier. If we are discovered by Woodleaf, wouldn't it be over? Akane smiled calmly. In fact, Mizuki-sama made some slight changes to the plan, but because of the urgency of time, he didn't hold a second meeting. What changed? Woodleaf has a lot of strong people. Even Naruto always stays in the village. It's not easy to secretly send someone back under their eyes, and it's difficult to explain why she suddenly appeared in Woodleaf. Therefore, after Mizuki-sama discovered the other identity of this little girl, he made some temporary changes to the plan. Everyone subconsciously looked at Rin. What identity? Is she Naruto's illegitimate daughter? Ahem, of course not. Akane's mouth twitched. These bastards have such a rich imagination. You should have heard of Hatake Kakashi. He killed a lot of Yunin and our ninjas on the battlefield, and this little girl is his teammate. Several Jonins nodded with righteous indignation. I heard that the bastard was forced by the Uchiha clan to prove his value, and he killed a lot of our people on the battlefield. Damn, he dared to use our people to gain war points. But what does this have to do with the Sanbai's plan? Akane calmly explained. Of course, it has something to do with it. Mizuki-sama used this little girl as an excuse to lure him out and seriously injure both of them, then we pretended to be accidentally discovered by their reinforcements, leaving them behind in a hurry to escape. In this way we have a reasonable explanation to let them go back to Woodleaf. Although they felt that it was a bit superfluous, everyone still praised him against their will. Mizuki-sama is really good, he thinks too far. Mizuki-sama is really reliable. Everyone be serious, don't let that guy see through your flaws. Akane chuckled softly, it's not easy, just act as yourself and beat that Kakashi to death. Everyone couldn't help but laugh out loud, although they were a little unhappy that they couldn't really kill that guy, but beating that Kakashi until his mother can't recognize him, it can be regarded as revenge for their brothers. Seeing that they were all villains, Akane's mouth slightly raised, and subconsciously looked at Rin, who was still in a coma. Seeing Kakashi being tortured by them, The emotional fluctuations should be able to break through the incomplete seal I deliberately arranged. Everything here is ready, we just need to wait for the actors to appear one by one. Chapter 260. At the same time, the land of grass was on its way to the battlefield of Kirin. Kakashi Rin, you must hold on. Bordered Soil was wearing a white Zetsu battle suit, whispering anxiously. White Zetsu, who had turned into an exoskeleton, smiled. That's not easy. Since he merged with part of your body, Kakashi can't last very long. Bordered Soil's body stagnated, and he almost fell from the trees. Bastard, don't say things that can easily be misunderstood. But as he said, his heart became more and more impatient. White Zetsu fanned the flames in his ear. I heard that Kakashi was going to give up on Rin last time. Guess, will he give up on Rin again this time or even do something worse than this? No, absolutely not. Having said that, the uneasiness in Bordered Soil's heart became stronger. Especially the nightmare he had last time, the hellish scene lingered in his mind. Damn it. There's no time to think about it. Bordered Soil shook his head hard and accelerated forward. The silent forest. Where are you taking me? Rin's angry voice sounded in the forest. Oh, we're going to take you to the person you want to see the most. Akachi responded with a smile. The person I want to see the most? Rin's face was pale and she quickly understood their purpose. You caught me to lure Kakashi out? Akachi gently clapped his hands. What a clever little girl. Lin bit her lower lip. Just give up. Kakashi won't come. Don't deny your value so easily. Akachi played with the kunai in his hand. Maybe there will be a surprise. The surprise you want is here. Accompanied by a calm and powerful voice, Kakashi's elongated figure came out of the forest. Kakashi, you. Rin didn't know how to describe her current emotions. She was moved, but also annoyed. Akashi smiled and said, Sure enough, Konoha's ninjas are very courageous. Kakashi didn't care about his teasing and asked in a deep voice, I came as promised, can you let Rin go? Let her go? Chi shrugged. The creed only says that we will kill her if you don't come, but it doesn't seem to say that we will let her go if you come. The rest of the Kirin ninjas also laughed loudly. Ah, what an idiotic and childish brat. What do you take us for? The Blood Mist Village's ninjas never leave anyone alive. Despair, rage, and wail in the fear of death. Damn it, these bastards. Rin clenched her fists in pain and shouted at Kakashi, Don't worry about me, run. I've already tasted the pain of losing a friend, so I definitely don't want to experience it again. Kakashi took out a shuriken from the tool bag on his waist and said firmly, Lin, wait for me. Tears welled up in Lin's eyes and the tip of her nose tingled. Why did you do that? Or this is... Before he could finish his words, Akashi saw Kakashi throwing a shuriken at him at a very fast speed. Oh, childish temper. As he spoke, he placed his kunai in front of his chest. Ding. A shuriken bounced off the kunai and fell to the ground. But before he could be happy, the sound of blocking and screams from all directions made his face change. In the next moment, dozens of Kakashi swarmed out of the forest. Obviously, chakra is not enough, but he still dares to use shadow clone jutsu. Should I say that he is confident or arrogant? Akashi whispered and his face changed again. In his line of sight, every shadow clone used Chidori, and the speed of those shadow clones was so fast that they didn't look like ninjas. Damn it, how did this bastard do it? In an instant, more than a dozen Kirin ninjas were cut off by his Chidori, and flesh and blood flew everywhere, rendering the originally silent forest like a slaughterhouse. Fortunately, the ninjas who participated in this operation were at least Chunin, and even half of them were Jonin, and even under this level of surprise attack, they still preserved nearly 3/5 of their strength. However, these Jonin were also frightened by Kakashi's attack, and they all looked at the white-haired boy with horror. This strength, is he really a 12-year-old kid? Damn it. Could it be that he's another genius like Qingshui Stone? Why do geniuses always come from wood leaf? Fate favors them too much. Akashi squinted his eyes and looked at the panting Kakashi, so it turns out that opening the Hashiman Tonka squeezes out the chakra in the body? After all, I'm not a genius like Senpai, opening the second gate in my spare time is the limit. Kakashi resisted the tiredness of his body, and his heart was extremely bitter. Kirin thinks too highly of me, they actually sent so many strong people at once. Don't be afraid, this bastard only has one round of outbreak. Akashi said with a grin, now it's our turn to fight back. Hearing Akashi's explanation, the remaining Kirin ninjas looked ferocious. New hatred and old hatred, how can they not vent it? Go. Lin stood up, but before she could take 2 steps, her legs went soft and she fell to the ground, and black curse lines appeared on her body. How can we let you leave? A Kirin ninja rushed up with a kunai. Kakashi resisted the attack with his sore body, but then another Kirin ninja seized the opportunity and sent him flying. I have to be patient, it's not time yet. Kakashi stood up unsteadily and before he could react he was hit in the chest by a knee. Kakashi curled up his body and fell down like a roasted prawn. The surrounding Kirin ninjas looked at this scene with joy. Ah, aren't you a genius? Why did you fall down? Don't you want to save people? Get up quickly. Although we sacrificed a lot of our companions, it was worth it to kill a genius like you in advance. Watching Kakashi being kicked around on the ground by the enemy, Lin felt like her heart was being cut by a knife, and waves of pain and regret surged in her heart. Why did it have to be like this? When the emotional fluctuations reached a threshold, a gate in her body seemed to be opened. Lin held her head and screamed in pain, the seal of her memory and body was broken. Hearing this incomparably miserable scream, the Kirin ninjas were shocked and subconsciously looked in the direction of Lin. Damn it, Lin drew their attention back again. Although he was annoyed, Kakashi was also worried about Lin's body, and decisively shouted, "Parker, do it." Boom! A piece of the ground near Lin was overturned. 8 ninja dogs rushed out, and while the 2 Kirin ninjas guarding Lin were not paying attention, they snatched Lin away. Chapter 261. Seeing the hostages being taken away by the ninja dogs, everyone was shocked. What? This guy still has a backup plan? While they were in a daze, Kakashi, who didn't resist no matter how they beat him, quickly made a hand seal. Earth escape barrier. Earth prison none. A huge hemispherical earth prison rose from the ground, trapping all the people who bullied him inside. Then without any hesitation he ran to Rin's side and jumped on the largest dog, Blue. Blue, let's go. Rin was also put on another large dog and the 2 ran on the ground like dog riders. Blue reminded while running, "Kakashi, you forgot to carve the powerful, loyal, and handsome dog head." Kakashi's breath stagnated and he smiled apologetically, "Sorry, I don't have enough chakra, next time, next time." Rin barely woke up from her headache and said in a hurried voice, "Kakashi, this is Kirin's conspiracy." Kakashi only thought that Rin was talking about the trap itself and said with a smile, "I know, but we have escaped." "No, it's not like that." Rin was about to continue, but suddenly there was an explosion behind them. Kakashi turned around and saw a group of Kirin ninjas all broke out of the seal. Damn, how can they be so fast? Kakashi's heart was in a mess for a while. All my chakra only bought me less than 10 seconds. At this time, Rin said with a complicated expression, "Kakashi, you should give up on me, I have no hope." Kakashi restrained his anxious expression and comforted her. "Don't worry, although it didn't buy much time, they only have 2 legs, they can't outrun Blue." Blue barked, "Even if you praise me, it doesn't change the fact that I'm a combat dog, my explosive power is good, but my endurance is far from enough." Kakashi said anxiously, "Hold on. If we can go back alive, I will ask Jiraiya-sama to write a book for you." "Write a book?" Blue perked up, but then he said suspiciously, "Although this is a good publicity method, I heard that Jiraiya's popularity is very low, and the content is not very healthy. What if people misunderstand that we are not decent dogs?" Kakashi tried to defend himself. "Who would read a book with healthy content? Believe me, you will become celebrity dogs." "Is that so?" Bru's face was filled with confusion. "Kakashi, don't make things difficult for it." Lin shook her head and said in a low voice, "I just broke the seal and finally remembered what they did to me." "Seal?" Kakashi's expression was solemn. "They sealed your memories before?" "Well, because..." Lin gently pressed her chest. "I am now a 3-tailed Jinchuriki." "Sanbai Jinchuriki? Why would they?" Kakashi's pupils suddenly shrank and he asked incredulously, "Are they going to let you go on a rampage in the village?" "Yes." Lin nodded sadly. "Now you should know why I said there was no hope for me. When they sealed the 3-tailed Jinchuriki in my body, they already left a way to retrieve the tailed beast. Even if I escape this time, I will die because of the tailed beast. Instead of letting them continue to use the power of the tailed beast to threaten the safety of the village, it is better to kill me now. At least during the time when the tailed beast is resurrected, they will lose a powerful weapon." Kakashi couldn't believe it and he didn't want to believe it. "No, there must be a way." By the way, I have already informed Senpai. Senpai can save you. Hearing Kakashi mention Senpai, Lin's eyes first lit up and then dimmed. It's too late, look behind you. Kakashi turned his head and found that the distance between them and the enemy had been shortened a lot. Damn, how can they be so fast? Bru's slightly apologetic voice sounded. Sorry, they have been throwing kunai and shurikens from behind, and our speed has been greatly affected. Do you see? Maybe in a minute or even less than a minute they will catch up, and then my memory will be sealed again, and then I will become a weapon in their hands to destroy the village. Lin roared in pain. Kakashi, do you want me to die without being able to forgive myself? Kakashi clenched his fists silently, and his fingertips almost pierced the flesh of his palms. It's too late, kill me. Lin looked at Kakashi with hopeful eyes. They set a curse on me that can't hurt me, only you can stop me. Kakashi slowly raised his right hand. At this moment he only felt that his arm was filled with lead, too heavy to lift. Hurry up. Lin urged loudly. At the same time, on the other side of the forest. Hurry up. White Zetsu also urged loudly. I want to be faster, but my body can't do it at all. Bordered Soil roared angrily. Let me control it, after all, you are using my body now. Bordered Soil was stunned and then moved. You are so kind, not only against Madara's order to take me out, but now you are so nervous about my affairs. White Zetsu laughed twice. Haha, I always like to help others. After White Zetsu took control, Bordered Soil's speed was much faster. Before long, Bordered Soil heard the sound of the ground shaking in front of him. There are a lot of people, it must be in front of us. Bordered Soil whispered excitedly through the forest, and then saw a scene that made his blood freeze. Kakashi's right hand passed through Lin's chest, and the bright red blood looked unusually dazzling. It's fake, it must be fake. Bordered Soil muttered to himself, and the Magatama in his right eye rotated rapidly. I'm sorry, Lin, I'm really sorry. Kakashi whispered, not aware that the Magatama in his left eye was rotating rapidly. At this time, Kakashi suddenly felt a chill from his arm. Looking up, he saw that the blow that had pierced through his chest had broken a certain pendant. By the way, Lin also has an ice crystal pendant. Kakashi was ecstatic, but the joy in his eyes quickly dissipated. Senpai said that this pendant can only make people fake death, but Lin is really dead, so what's the point of this fake death? The ups and downs between heaven and hell made the chakra in his brain surge wildly. The next moment, the Magatama in his left eye turned into a pinwheel. However, his body was in a state of limit, and under such continuous stimulation he fainted directly. Hey Kakashi, you! After Kakashi lost consciousness, Blue and the other 8 ninja dogs turned into smoke and returned to the different space. Then Kakashi and Lin's bodies fell to the ground. Chapter 262. This sudden change made the Kirin ninjas behind them dumbfounded. We didn't want to kill you. Why did you do it yourself? After the shock, it was followed by madness and irritation. If the Jinchuriki is dead, the Sanbai will also die, right? Bastard. It will take many years for the tailed beast to be resurrected. Damn it. Not only did we fail to complete the task, but we also killed the Sanbai. Akashi, what should we do now? Akashi didn't pay attention to them, but he stared at the Bordered Soil who suddenly appeared on the side of the forest. Looking at the big windmill in Obito's eyes, his heart was in turmoil, and he almost cried out in horror. In just 2 months he actually completed the transformation from Eyeless to Two-Tomo Sharingan, and from Two-Tomo Sharingan to Mangekyo. What kind of monster is this kid? If he didn't know that Madara was not dead, he would think that the reincarnation of Indra's chakra was the Bordered Soil. Seeing Akashi was silent, a group of Kirin ninjas followed his gaze, and then found a strange man wearing a one-eyed mask and a black robe. Who's there? No matter who it is, go to hell. They were full of grievances and had nowhere to vent, so when they saw Obito they decided to vent their grievances on him. Several Kirin ninjas took out shurikens and shot at the Bordered Soil from a tricky angle. However, the Bordered Soil stood in the same place and muttered to himself. Fake, it must be fake. Whoosh. A few shurikens passed through his body as if they were hitting air. Seeing this, the Kirin ninjas were shocked. Is it an afterimage? No, he didn't move at all. Damn, who is this bastard? They were surprised, and the Bordered Soil, who had been standing in the same place, suddenly raised his head. I don't admit it, I will never admit the world without Rin. After that, he seemed to awaken from a shoddy Chunin. He was directly strengthened to the point where he could kill any Jonin. The dark Obito rushed into the crowd as if he had entered a no-man's land. No one was his opponent. Seeing the bordered soil killing in the crowd, these Kirin ninjas were going crazy. They were just venting their anger. How could a monster appear? They couldn't attack each other, but the other party could attack them wantonly. This unreasonable attack made them not even know how to resist. Very good. That's it. Black Zetsu, who let Akachi accidentally be killed by Obito and then faked his death to escape, hid in the ground and looked at the scene in front of him excitedly. Cut off your fetters completely and completely transform into Madara's will. But when he was secretly fanning the flames, he suddenly perceived someone's chakra, which made him panic. Why is this bastard here? Did Kakashi secretly inform him? But I didn't notice. Forget it, it's too late to think about this. I must let the bordered soil leave quickly. Although the bordered soil was strengthened many times after the dark transformation, and even awakened the ability of the Mangekyo, but against the real monster named Shimizu Garashi, the possibility of bordered soil winning is less than 1%. After all, that's a character that even he is afraid of. Thinking of this, he quickly controlled the bordered soil to remind him. Bordered soil, there is a very powerful chakra approaching. We must leave here quickly. However, Obito, who has completely turned black, didn't pay attention to him at all and only cared about killing the mist ninjas. Black Zetsu was speechless for a while. The dark transformation is really troublesome. The bordered soil, who used to be obedient, suddenly became stubborn. However, it wasn't as if he didn't have a solution. As the dark mentor who led Madara step by step to the abyss, he knows the personality of these Uchiha too well. To deal with them, coercion is useless. You have to see their hearts and then guide them slowly. The person who came seems to be the woodleaf Shimizu Garashi. If you are discovered by him, you may not be able to leave. Don't you think all this is fake? Inherit the will of Madara, and you can create a real world by yourself. Hearing the name of Shimizu Garashi, the bordered soil's indifferent eyes restored a trace of clarity and expectation. If it's Senpai, is it possible to save Rin? Seeing that the bordered soil seemed to have signs of deviation, Black Zetsu hurriedly said, "Do you think it's possible? He's just a medical ninja, not a god." The bordered soil hesitated for a moment, and finally looked at the dead Rin, and then disappeared with the distortion of space. He's gone? What the hell is this demon doing? The surviving mist ninjas felt like they had just experienced a nightmare. They failed the mission, lost their tailed beasts, and now they were inexplicably killed until there were only a few of them left. Their nose was sour and they almost burst into tears. After calming down, they looked at Kakashi and Rin lying on the ground with ferocious expressions. "Damn, it's all your fault, you bastard. Don't think you'll be fine if you faint. I'll let you experience the pain we experienced." They walked toward Kakashi with a grin, but before they took a few steps, they found a figure suddenly appeared beside Kakashi. Looking at the back of the person who came, they took out their kunai vigilantly. "This clothes, he's a woodleaf ninja. Humph. Just let me vent. Wait, why does this guy's back look a bit familiar?" One of the Kirin ninja screamed, and his body trembled like a sieve. He's Shimizu Garashi. Are you kidding me? It wasn't easy for us to survive from that monster. Run separately, let's escape as many as we can. Garashi calmly made hand seals, created a few shadow clones and no longer paid attention to them. He's gone? Garashi looked around a little, and when he didn't sense the bordered soil's chakra, he nodded slightly. "I didn't deliberately leak my aura in vain." After confirming that there was no little tail around, Garashi calmly walked to Rin's side and squatted down to check her vital signs. Fortunately, it's not too late. Although his ice release can't replace death, it can delay Rin's death and let her hold on until his arrival. Garashi pressed on Rin's chest without changing his expression, and while stopping her bleeding, he secretly muttered to himself, "I'll use the research results I got from the Hachibi clone on you for the first time. Tailed beasts and Jinchuriki are two existences. If the tailed beast is pulled out, the Jinchuriki will die, and if the Jinchuriki dies, the tailed beast will also die. But the difference is that the tailed beast can be randomly respawned in the wild after death. So here's the problem. What if part of the tailed beast is forced to stay in the body of the Jinchuriki? Is it possible to use the rebirth characteristics of the tailed beast to keep the Jinchuriki alive?" Based on Shushi's research, this was indeed possible, but two conditions had to be met first. First, to keep the dead body of the Jinchuriki from decaying. Second, to ensure the activity of the chakra left in the body of the Jinchuriki. The first point is easy to do and his ice release can do it. The real trouble is the second point, to keep the chakra activity of the tailed beast after the death of the tailed beast. Then Garashi thought of the Hachibi. In the original work, the Hachibi was pulled out by Madara and left an octopus foot in the body of Killer Bee to keep him alive. You know, after becoming a part of the Jubi, the Hachibi is actually dead. In this case, the octopus foot can keep Killer Bee alive, which naturally explains the problem. After Garashi's research, he also mastered this ability. Under his strong intervention, a part of the dissipating chakra was intercepted by him in Rin's body. Phew, it's barely stable. After all this, Garashi exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and then methodically took out a scroll. As a reward for saving you, I'll accept the Sanbai's chakra. Chapter 263. When Kakashi woke up, it was already 3 days later. Where is this? Kakashi held his swollen head, opened his eyes in a daze, looked at the pure white ceiling and muttered to himself. This is Woodleaf Hospital. The nurse next to him laughed. You've been on the battlefield for so long that you even forgot what the village looks like? Oh, it's Woodleaf Hospital. Wait, Woodleaf Hospital? Kakashi repeated as if a bolt of lightning flashed through his mind, excitedly sat up from the bed. Where's Lin? How's Lin? Lin? You mean the little girl with you? The nurse was startled, shook her head and sighed. I'm sorry. Although she didn't say it clearly, her attitude had already explained everything. Kakashi seemed to have lost his soul, leaned against the bed and softly slid down. There are a lot of people who care about you, they'll be very happy to know that you're awake. How about I go inform them now? Kakashi didn't say anything, just looked at the ceiling in a daze. Sigh. The nurse shook her head and didn't say anything. She had seen this kind of thing many times and knew that persuasion was useless. The only thing that can heal this kind of pain is time. After an unknown amount of time, a familiar voice came from outside the door. Kakashi, can we come in? However, there was no response from the room. Did he fall asleep? The nurse reminded, you can go in directly. Looking at his previous state, I was worried that he would harm himself. Harm himself? The few of them quickly pushed the door and came in, then saw Kakashi lying on the bed like a zombie. Kakashi, are you all right? Asuma asked, choosing his words carefully. We already know what happened, it's not your fault. Red comforted. Yes, you've done well enough. Shizue also said. Everyone says that you and Lin are the heroes who protected the village. Guy cheered. As if the keyword was triggered, Kakashi said in a hoarse voice. Hero? How can a trash like me be called a hero? What about Lin? Are you going to deny her sacrifice? Shueimu asked coldly. Kakashi shook his head. Of course Lin is a hero. We found a curse on Lin's body. She couldn't hurt herself, so she chose to die in your hands. Shueimu said coldly, at least your hand chop was valuable. It's all thanks to you that she became a hero. Kakashi became agitated. What did you say? Shueimu curled his lips. What? You're not going to play dead anymore? The corners of Kakashi's eyes twitched, and he had an inexplicable impulse to hit someone. However, in his current state he would most likely be the one being beaten. Everyone had strange expressions on their faces. Sure enough, Shueimu was more effective in dealing with Kakashi. Kakashi said dejectedly. Obito died to protect me and Rin gave me the chance to escape. She took the initiative to die in my hands. I am a person who will only bring misfortune and misfortune. So, are you going to commit suicide? Shueimu asked coldly. Are you going to waste the lives that they exchanged with their lives? Kakashi was speechless for a moment. Yes, in a sense, his life was no longer his own. If he continued to sink, he would be blaspheming the bordered soil and Lin's sacrifice. But the question was, what should he do? Seeing that Kakashi's mood seemed to have changed a little, everyone couldn't help but understand. So, to treat Kakashi they had to use this kind of collapse therapy? I don't know. Kakashi touched his left eye and said in disappointment. Bordered soil left this eye to me, hoping that I could protect Lin. But in order to keep this eye, I let Lin suffer misfortune instead of me. What should a person like me do? At this time, Garashi's voice suddenly came from outside the door. The reason why you're in pain and confusion is that you're too weak. Garashi. Senpai. Garashi shook his head slightly. You guys go out first. Let me have a few words with him alone. Naturally, no one objected. They left Kakashi with an encouraging look and turned to leave. When only the two of them were left in the room, Garashi said, Are you confused that I would say such cold words to you? Kakashi said dejectedly. No, it's because I'm too weak. That bordered soil and Lin died for me. If I were stronger, these things might not have happened at all. Yes. All the pain of a person is essentially anger at their own incompetence. Garashi sighed. If you don't want pain to come again, keep moving toward the word, strongest. Yes. I'm just angry at my own incompetence. Kakashi's eyes were confused. If I could have senpai strength, no matter how many traps and conspiracies, they would be nothing. He knew that Kirin, Yunin, and Rock Crypsis had planned more than one trap against senpai, but what was the result? In the end, the three families often suffered losses and senpai even became stronger. It was the same experience, but the results were completely different. The reason for this was that senpai's strength was strong enough, so strong that he could destroy all the conspiracies. Thinking of this, the confusion in Kakashi's eyes gradually dissipated. Senpai, I understand. I will make myself strong enough. I will never experience this kind of pain again. Good momentum. Garashi smiled slightly. As a reward, come to my house late tonight. A few question marks appeared on Kakashi's head. He was not red or mute. What kind of reward was this to him? But then his expression changed and he asked in a trembling voice in disbelief, could it be that Lin? Kakashi did not dare to ask any more, and he did not even dare to look Garashi in the eyes. Garashi pondered. How should I say this? This matter is a bit complicated and it may not be as you think. In short, if you want to know all this, then come. Remember, don't let anyone else know. Although he did not get a definite answer, the fact that senpai did not deny it made him ecstatic. Kakashi nodded like a chick pecking at rice. I know, I will not tell anyone. Also, don't look so excited. Seeing that senpai was so serious, Kakashi did not dare to underestimate him. He quickly pressed his cheeks with both hands, forcibly stopping his smile, and changed into a pouting look. Oh my god. Don't overdo it. Garashi pressed between his eyebrows helplessly, shook his head and walked out of the door. In short, you should pay more attention to yourself. Kakashi nodded vigorously. I will definitely calm down, calm down, calm down. Ah. No, I can't do this. Kakashi decisively lifted the sheets and hid under the quilt, twisting around like a maggot. Chapter 264. It's so slow, so slow. After the excitement, Kakashi seemed to have entered the state of a sage, looking numbly at the clock on the wall. He had never looked forward to the arrival of midnight as much as he did today. The slow passage of time seemed to him as long as a century. Finally, the clock of 12 o'clock gently sounded. Kakashi jumped up from the hospital bed like a carp and covered his chest. Ahem, ahem, that was fierce. Fortunately, no one saw his shameful scene. Kakashi didn't care. After creating a shadow clone to replace him in the hospital bed, he used earth release, earth diving technique to sneak from the ground. It didn't take long for him to come to a mansion in the center of the village. Unless they were like a big fat sheep who frequented casinos, a top medical ninja generally wouldn't be short of money. Not to mention, Masashi was the inventor of the medical scroll, and he had already made a lot of money in the war. The once dilapidated wooden house outside Konoha's fifth ring has also been replaced with the current central mansion. Of course, Kakashi's attention was completely not on the mansion in front of him. Sneak in directly? Isn't that impolite? But senpai also told me to pay attention to the concealment, and I can't hide from senpai. Thinking of this, Kakashi no longer hesitated, his head shrank and sneaked into the ground again. As soon as he sneaked into the courtyard in the center of the mansion, he heard senpai's voice from above. Come out. Kakashi's heart relaxed, he released the ninjutsu and jumped out of the ground. Senpai, the reward is, don't worry, come with me first. Kakashi excitedly followed behind Shitoshi and arrived in front of a room. Shushi pushed the door open and Kakashi followed him in. But after a few glances he found something wrong. Wait, this decoration looks like a bedroom, doesn't it? Kakashi's forehead couldn't help sweating and he nervously covered his buttocks. Did I guess wrong? Is it really the reward I understood at the beginning? While Kakashi's imagination was running wild, Shushi formed a seal with his hands. Open. This is a barrier? Kakashi was surprised in his heart. Only now did he sense that there seemed to be a layer of concealment enchantment placed in the room. Then Garashi pressed on the wall. There was a slight sound of machinery turning from underground. The next moment, the floor opened up, and a flight of stairs leading underground appeared in front of the two of them. This is? Kakashi was surprised and relieved at the same time. Fortunately, the plot didn't develop in the direction he wanted it to. This is where I used to do my experiments, so I arranged it to be slightly hidden. Garashi looked back and explained. He then looked at Kakashi with a strange look and asked, "What happened to you?" Kakashi hurriedly removed his right hand from his hip and smiled awkwardly. Oh, by the way, I've been lying in bed for too long today. This place is a little numb. Oh, is that so? Garashi did not mind and led the way underground. Kakashi followed closely behind Garashi. As soon as he entered the underground, a gust of cold air hit him in the face, causing him to subconsciously shiver. However, he was not in the mood to care about the cold air. As he walked underground, all his attention was firmly occupied by the ice coffin in the center of the underground space. A little girl was lying in the ice coffin. Her face was peaceful, as if she was sleeping. It's Lin. Kakashi ran forward excitedly and touched the ice coffin. Even if his palm was frostbitten, he did not feel it. After looking for a while, Kakashi reluctantly turned back and asked, "Senpai, what's going on?" "How should I explain it?" Garashi gently rubbed his forehead. Briefly explain her situation. Lin is now in a vegetative state. Vegetative state. Kakashi did not have a hard time understanding this term, but he still could not believe it. I clearly killed Lin at that time. Even the tailed beast chakra in Lin's body was dispersing. Garashi smiled. So, does this mean she's dead? Kakashi's brain was a little confused. He shook his head at a loss. I don't know. For an ordinary medical ninja, such a situation is of course fatal. Garashi smiled. But for me, this situation is not the worst. No matter what, my job is a medical ninja. If I can't even save someone from the Grim Reaper, what kind of medical ninja can I be? Kakashi was shocked. Save someone from the Grim Reaper? That's amazing, as expected of Senpai. Shushi, on the other hand, smiled faintly. He had not only snatched someone from the god of death, but he had also snatched the god of death himself. After the shock, Kakashi asked again. Senpai, when will Lin wake up? Garashi rubbed his chin and said with uncertainty. 3 years? 5 years? The key is when the Sanbai will be resurrected. Ah? Why is it related to the Sanbai? Kakashi wondered. Let's put it this way. First, I used the symbiotic characteristics of the Bijou and the Jinchuriki to forcibly intercept a part of the Sanbai's chakra in Lin's body, and then I used the research results I obtained from the Hachibi's clone on Lin to ensure that the activity of that part of the chakra is not dead. After a pause, Garashi went on to explain. In this way, as long as the Sanbai is resurrected, we can capture the Sanbai and seal it into Lin's body, making Lin a real complete Jinchuriki, and with this she can be truly resurrected. Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. Although I don't understand it at all, it's very powerful anyway. However, it's precisely because of this. Garashi warned seriously. You have to pretend that you don't know that Lin is still alive. What? Kakashi said and suddenly realized. I know, is it because of Kirin? Kirin regards the Sanbai as her exclusive property. If she knows that we are also waiting for the Sanbai's resurrection, it will definitely add a lot of twists and turns to capture the Sanbai. Moreover, they might even try to assassinate Lin. Shushi analyzed the situation methodically. After all, we can't guard Lin all the time. The best way to protect her is to pretend that you don't know about it at all. Even if it's for Lin, you have to pretend that you are in pain and strong. Finally, Kakashi looked at Lin, who seemed to be sleeping quietly, and resolutely said, I will be strong. Very good, that's the kind of determination you need. Garashi nodded with satisfaction and immediately changed the topic. In order to let Kirin see your pain and also to take revenge on them, I have a bolder idea. Kakashi wondered. What idea? Garashi softly spat out a few words. Kill the Mizukage. Chapter 265. Besieging the Mizukage? The next day, Shushi's team exclaimed in surprise. Among these voices, there was surprise, excitement, but there was no fear. Even if the enemy is the Kage of one of the 5 great ninja villages, who really stands at the top of the ninja world and can decide the fate of a small country with a single word, as long as it's Garashi's decision, they will never have any doubts. Not only that, but at their age they lack respect for the so-called big people. As geniuses, they think highly of themselves. Even the Kage of one of the villages, in their view, only took advantage of his age. The only person who can make them respect and worship is Garashi. Garashi narrowed his eyes, his fingers gently tapped on the table. Killing and sacrificing in the war is a very normal thing, and I don't want to continue the hatred outside the battlefield, but Kirin went too far this time. She was crazy enough to let Rin become a tailed beast weapon. If it wasn't for Rin's self-sacrifice, the village may have suffered a huge loss this time. Everyone nodded with righteous indignation. They didn't have so many thoughts about what was right or wrong. They simply felt that since they dared to lay their hands on their friends, they should be punished. After all, the kind and lovely Rin is much more likable than the smelly Kakashi and the stupid bordered soil. Yes. We must not let Rin's sacrifice be in vain. We must let Kirin understand the price of hurting our people. Isn't it just the Mizukage? There is nothing to be afraid of. Kakashi was moved, but more than that he was shocked. Just because of Senpai's words they didn't even fear to attack the Mizukage. What kind of worship and trust is this? This kind of cohesion can make any team envy. However, I can also do it. Kakashi said in his heart, his worship and trust for Senpai is absolutely not inferior to them. Even if Senpai wants to take Naruto's position by force, he will not hesitate to follow Senpai. Garashi nodded with relief and continued, about this operation I have asked Naruto-sama for instructions. His answer is that the village will not give any support, but will not stop our actions. In other words, you have to take care of yourself. Everyone was secretly surprised. With Lord Naruto's personality, he was able to negotiate with the Rock Crypsis even after destroying their village. Other than his anger towards Kirin, the reason why he agreed to this operation was most likely because of their senior's attitude. Since no one has any objections, let's make a battle plan. Garashi pondered for a moment and said, first of all, we have to find a way to lure the Mizukage out and let him stay in Kirin's army. It's impossible for us to defeat him. Should we lure him out? Guy pondered. Should we spread the news that Sanbai has been resurrected? Three Tails has only been dead for a few days and it's already resurrected. Asma glanced at him. Can you be a little more professional when it comes to spreading rumors? Guy was unconvinced. Then why don't you make one? Sure. Asma thought for a moment, then clapped his hands and said, I got it. Let's say that Kakashi was dissatisfied with the village's indifference, so he stole the scroll of seals and defected. Let's see if we can fish out the Mizukage. Kakashi was speechless. Why are you talking about me? And yours is obviously even more unreliable. What can we do? Asma said helplessly, the Mizukage is very cautious, and ordinary temptations won't be attractive to him at all. Everyone's face was tangled. The Mizukage was not a reckless person like the Reikage. Since there's no way to lure him out, then think about it in another direction, such as diverting Kirin's army. Garashi pondered and said, at that time I will use Genjutsu to control a few Kirin ninjas to have a conflict with Yunin, and then make things big so that Kirin will mobilize the army. Kakashi asked, but what if they only send a part of their forces? Garashi said, then wait for Kirin to send a part of their forces, and then ask Jiraiya-sama to lead the army to circle the border a few times, and let Kirin send the rest of their forces to defend. The threat of 2 villages should be enough to empty their main camp. Mizuki was the first to agree, I think it's okay. Shizune and Kurenai secretly gritted their teeth, why are you talking so fast? Well, I also agree. When everyone agreed, Garashi nodded slightly. Then the second question is how to defeat or even kill the Mizukage. The Mizukage has always been cautious. Even on the battlefield, he will let his personal guards protect him. Those personal guards are only at the level of a normal jonin, but they are good at joint attacks, and together they can exert a considerable strength. Moreover, when the villages choose the shadow guards, they will generally consider the cooperation with the Kage. After all, even the Kage can't do everything, so the existence of the shadow guards is particularly important. Kakashi pondered, so, our task is to stop the Mizukage's personal guards? Not only that. Garashi looked dignified and shook his head, although I am confident in dealing with the Mizukage, if he wants to escape, it will be difficult for me to stop him, so I need you to divide a few people or even more people, to take turns to arrange the barrier. Everyone looked serious, although they have grown a lot, the enemy is not comparable to the 7 legendary swordsmen. If the Mizukage wants to escape, a single barrier can't hold him for too long. In other words, they must be prepared to use the barrier in rotation. In addition to the personal guards, we also need to consider the situation of Kirin's reinforcements. Garashi said, of course our operation time shouldn't be too long, Kirin's main force should be difficult to come back, but even if it's only one of them, it's enough to raise our vigilance. Can Kirin come up with any powerful combat power now? Asma muttered, the Sanbai is dead, and the Rokubi's Jinchuriki shouldn't have recovered yet. They can only come up with the 7 legendary swordsmen. The 2 legendary swordsmen, right? Well, if we really meet the 2 of them, it's time for revenge. Kurenai said while rubbing her small hands. Guy nodded excitedly, yes. Now we are completely different from the last time. Don't underestimate Kirin. With the strong vitality of the Bijou, even if the Rokubi's Jinchuriki is not healed, he can still exert a lot of strength. Garashi reminded, in addition to the Jinchuriki, Kirin's water mirror Yagura is also not to be underestimated. Yagura, the monster that can use the water mirror jutsu to summon a mirror image of the same strength as the enemy? Shizen exclaimed. Is this jutsu really so powerful? Asma expressed doubts. If he copies Garashi, then what are we going to do? Then let's kill the Mizukage before their reinforcements arrive. Mizuki said coldly, it just so happens that my ability hasn't been exposed yet. I will pretend to make a mistake and lure the Mizukage to break the barrier from my side. Underworld release? Inuzuka Arashi's eyes lit up. Without knowing the information, even the Mizukage may fall in your hands. Won't it be too dangerous? After all, the enemy is the Kage. Hyuga Mori asked hesitantly. There's nothing to worry about. No matter how strong he is, he can't escape from the essence of chakra. Mizuki said calmly. And me, my ability should be able to help. Kakashi gently touched his left eye. Guy wondered, what's the use of the Sharingan? Are you going to use Genjutsu to control the Mizukage? Kakashi closed his left eye, and when he opened it again, the Magatama had turned into a pinwheel shape. This is the last gift Rin gave me, the miracle light that allowed the Sharingan to evolve. Chapter 266. Kirin Camp, Conference Room. A group of Jonins sat upright, they didn't even dare to breathe. Since the incident a few days ago, the Mizukage-sama's mood has been very bad. A large team of elite ninjas, plus the Sanbai, such a loss made the already poor Kirigikure even worse. What annoyed them the most was that it wasn't a wrong decision, but they didn't know what went wrong. If it wasn't for the fact that all the people who went out were killed, they would have thought that there was a spy mixed in with the team. In short, they were very unhappy. The Mizukage asked coldly, did you investigate the conflict on the border of Yunin? A Jonin quickly replied, it has been found that Yunin deliberately provoked them, but they accused us of starting it first. This group of lunatics really don't want to stop. The Mizukage's face was very ugly, he took the initiative to retreat, but Yunin still dared to make trouble. Did they really think that the honest people wouldn't get angry? The other Kirin Jonins were also angry, although they just suffered a heavy loss. Yunin wasn't much better, right? The third Raikage died in the battle with Rock Crypsis, and now they dare to take the initiative to provoke them? As for the authenticity of this information, they didn't doubt it. After all, it's Yunin, it's normal for them to be stubborn. Mizukage-sama, teach those arrogant Yunin a lesson. If we continue to endure, the enemy will only take a mile after taking an inch. Indeed, it's time to teach them a lesson. The Mizukage's face was gloomy, he was now angry. Shinzuki, can you still fight? Shinzuki licked her lips. It's not a big problem. Then you take 4,000 ninjas to the battlefield now. Understood. Less than half an hour after this decision was made, just as the Mizukage was about to end the meeting, a Chunin anxiously came in and reported, Mizukage-sama, it's not good. Woodleaf's army appeared on the border. The Mizukage's face changed and he hurriedly asked, did they start? The Chunin was startled, he shook his head and said, no, but I'm not sure. A warning? The Mizukage frowned. It is reasonable to say that since they gave them time to react, it should mean that they have no intention of fighting. However, it was hard to say. Could it be that Woodleaf was deliberately lulling them? In short, he absolutely could not be careless. After thinking for a while, the Mizukage looked at the baby-faced ninja next to him. Yagura, you also take 4,000 ninjas to the border of Woodleaf. Pay attention, don't fight unless it's a last resort. Yagura nodded seriously. Yes, I understand. Soon, the ninjas in Kirin's camp gathered again. And all of this was seen by a certain someone who was secretly observing. Garashi, Kirin and those bastards really fell into the trap. Hyuga Mori asked excitedly, when are we going to do it? Be patient. Garashi whispered, when it gets dark, we will send Mizukage-sama on his way. At night, in the Mizukage's tent. Should I learn from Yunin and frame the last action on Woodleaf's head, saying that we sent him back with good intentions? The Mizukage was secretly thinking when suddenly his heart throbbed, this is Chakra's wave? Without thinking much, he subconsciously jumped out of the tent. In the next moment, a high-speed rotating chakra shuriken flew and hit the tent. It quickly expanded and turned into countless thin needle-like wind blades. The tent was torn into pieces in an instant, even the small particles couldn't be preserved, and the ground seemed to be swallowed by a void monster, and a large part of it disappeared out of thin air. Although the Mizukage reacted quickly, his left arm was still scratched by the edge of the wind blade, and instantly blood dripped. However, for him this kind of skin injury didn't matter at all. What really made him feel troublesome was that many of the meridians in his left arm were cut off. It was like poison in a ninjutsu. Damn, what the hell is this ninjutsu? The macroscopic power is powerful, but the lethality on the microscopic level is also so amazing. The Mizukage was secretly horrified, and a figure rushed out of the airwave to attack him. Damn, don't underestimate the Mizukage. As a veteran who grew up in the Warring States period, served as the first Mizukage's guard, and even participated in the first 5 Kage meeting, his combat experience is naturally far from comparable to ordinary ninjas. Even in this extremely unfavorable situation, the Mizukage responded immediately. Ice release armor. Garashi's attack didn't break the armor, but the Mizukage took advantage of the impact of the attack to pull away from him. At this time, the Mizukage finally had time to see the appearance of the person. It's you? Shimizu Garashi. As expected of the Mizukage, this kind of printing speed is almost instantaneous, right? The Mizukage didn't think it was a big deal. He was already the limit of ordinary ninja, and if he wanted to improve his strength, he could only consider the development of forbidden techniques or shortening the printing speed. And he didn't have the talent of Naruto, so he could only choose the most stupid method of printing and practicing again and again. You bastard, do you want to provoke the war between Kirin and Woodleaf? The Mizukage asked impolitely. I should be the one asking you that. Garashi's voice was cold. Using Rin as a tailed beast weapon, this kind of thing is beyond the scope of war. Just because of this reason? The Mizukage couldn't believe it. Just because of a little Chunin to assassinate him, the Mizukage is Woodleaf's people crazy? After the shock, the Mizukage was extremely angry. Our Kirin lost 50 Chunin, even the Sanbai was lost, and you just lost a Chunin? Bastard, what do you think Rin is? Garashi didn't speak, but Kakashi shouted loudly. The Mizukage turned his head and looked at Garashi. His pupils suddenly shrank, and then he looked at Garashi. Barrier? Are you planning to fight to the death with me? Seeing that the Mizukage didn't take him seriously, Kakashi was secretly angry, and at the same time his thirst for strength became stronger. I have to account for the dead. Garashi's voice was calm, as if the person he wanted to kill was not a Kage but a nobody. Your courage is commendable. But the Mizukage's eyes swept over the people around him, and his face became more and more ugly. No matter how arrogant you are, there should be a limit. You think you can kill this old man with these little brats? At first he was worried that Naruto would also come, or at least the Sannin or Namikaze Minato, but the result was more than a dozen little brats wanted to kill him, and they even rushed to Kirin's base. If he lost, even if he died, he would be nailed to the Kage's pillar of shame. Chapter 267. At the same time, a group of Kirin ninjas in the camp recovered from the shock of Kage's assassination. Go and protect Mizukage-sama. Hurry up and inform all the Jonins to come back. Even if the defense was empty, there were still hundreds of ninjas left in the camp. These ninjas acted together and broke out a lot of momentum. Wow! Konoha's proud blue beast Ginseng. Guy spread his wings in front of the enemy and said, "If you want to stop Senpai, you have to go through me first." Even in this tense atmosphere, seeing Guy's appearance, the Kirin ninjas in the direction he was in charge of shuddered subconsciously. Pervert. Super disgusting pervert. Guy's movement froze as if he was petrified, and he muttered to himself. Pervert? Don't make trouble, get ready to fight. Asma reminded him, seeing Guy was still depressed, he had to encourage him loudly. What's wrong with men being perverted? Isn't it youth to admit your perversion? Yes, this is also youth. Guy seemed to be influenced by the holy light, and he rushed toward the enemy. Look at my super perverted tornado. This guy. Asuma sighed helplessly, then glanced at the two people inside the barrier from the corner of his eye. You'll win, won't you, Shushi? Inside the barrier. They just don't want others to disturb us. I'm the only one who can do it. Garashi replied calmly. What an arrogant brat. Have those victories made you unable to see yourself clearly? The Mizukage's face was gloomy. It seems necessary to let you know that defeating a Jinchuriki is not the same thing as defeating a Kage. Ice release, magic mirror ice crystal. The moisture in the air condensed into ice, and instantly transformed the inside of the barrier into a world of ice. Then, the Mizukage seemed to sink into the water, and his figure gradually disappeared from the ice. This is similar to Haku's ice release? Garashi was a little surprised. He knew that the Mizukage could use ice release, but he didn't know which aspect of the Mizukage's development. In the next moment, water shadows appeared in every corner of the ice world. All the water shadows formed hand seals together, and hundreds of thousands of ice spikes pierced towards Garashi without leaving any blind spots. Earth escape barrier. Earth prison none. The spell used to trap the enemy turned into a shelter under Garashi's control, blocking all the icicles flying from all directions. Desuke, I thought you would use ice escape. Come on, I don't want to be tricked by you. Facing the Mizukage who could use the ice as a moving medium, Garashi couldn't use ice release rashly. Take this earth release as an example. Ice release can also have a similar effect, but the result is that the Mizukage can instantly move to a place closer to him. Since you like ice so much, you can stay in that world forever. Shushi slammed the ground with his monstrous strength. Cracks spread out like a spider web, and the entire world of ice shattered into pieces. However, the Mizukage's voice did not disappear, but became more chaotic and noisy. It's no use even if the ice layer is broken into powder. As long as the essence is still ice, it has no effect on me. With that, the ice fragments automatically restored, and then shot out a cold light with biting cold air, shooting towards Garashi at a very fast speed. Immortal art, Kami. Garashi manipulated his body to change shape freely like soft mud, avoiding the attack from an incredible angle. However, those light beams did not disappear after hitting the ice layer, they were directly reflected. From the outside, it seemed that the whole enchantment space had become a laser network. Don't underestimate the power of ice. The temperature you have mastered is just the most basic part. The Mizukage's proud voice came from the ice mirror. This old man has studied for decades and barely mastered ice release. Then I'm sorry, I'm not used to your development mode. Garashi, while dodging the light beams, sighed with emotion. I really envy you mediocre ninjas, you can spend so much time on one aspect. The Mizukage was depressed. He, the dignified Mizukage, was called a mediocre ninja? However, compared with this little monster in front of him, it seems to be true. The more the Mizukage thought, the angrier he was. Then don't run away. I didn't intend to run away. Garashi's energy continued to gather in his palm, and a super large chakra ball gradually formed. Moreover, I also want to see if you can come out alive after the ice crystal is broken into molecules and atoms. Perceiving the terrible chakra fluctuation, even the Mizukage in the different space had a burst of scalp tingling. Is this bastard a tailed beast? No, if I continue to stay in the ice world, it will be really troublesome. But if he goes out now, he will have to face the attack of a tailed beast. I must seize the opportunity when the storm is over and the ice is not completely broken. I must go out. The light ball in Garashi's hand fell to the ground. Even if he tried to limit the attack to a small range, the sudden burst of energy storm still shook the enchantment space. The enchantment space on the edge was like this, not to mention the two people in the center of the explosion. Even Shushi himself had to put on a layer of earth release armor on the inside and an ice release barrier on the outside to survive. The Mizukage didn't have time to attack Garashi, and after coming out of the ice world, he quickly put a layer of ice barrier on himself. Survival is more important. The two sides fighting fiercely around them were also shocked by this sudden earthquake. Even outside the enchantment, they could perceive the huge movement inside the enchantment. Does that Shimizu Garashi want to die? This is too reckless. Mizukage-sama, and he won't die, right? No matter what, this kind of attack is too exaggerated. It's like a tailed beast in human form. Seeing the Mizukage finally came out of the ice world, Garashi was slightly relieved. Using this kind of large-scale ninjutsu in such a relatively small and enclosed space is indeed a big risk. One or two more times the enchantment will directly break. The Mizukage covered his chest and calmed down, then he shouted. You lunatic, don't drag me down with you if you want to die. Garashi smiled and said. Don't you think it's very exciting? The Mizukage was speechless. The Reikage was also like this. He always wanted to die together with him. There was no way to fight him. I don't intend to die with you. If he was in a desperate situation, of course, he wouldn't mind using his old life to exchange for Woodleaf, a genius with infinite potential. But the problem is, Now the other side rushed to his home. As long as he delays a little bit, and when the reinforcements come back he will win. In this case of course he didn't want to fight with the other side. Chapter 268. I have to hurry up. Garashi whispered and took out a large number of shurikens from the tool bag on his waist. Flying Thunder God Jutsu? The Mizukage narrowed his eyes. He was naturally familiar with Garashi's signature move. So, what are you going to do? Shushi shot his shuriken in all directions like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, and then his figure suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time as Garashi shot the shurikens, the Mizukage condensed dozens of ice shurikens and threw them out. In the next moment, Garashi's figure suddenly appeared in front of the Mizukage, and before he had time to make a move, the Mizukage also appeared on the opposite side. It was as if the two sides exchanged places at the same time. Noticing this scene, Asma and others outside the barrier were horrified. How is this possible? He actually dodged it? Does he also know the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? No, he formed a layer of frost on his body, and then used the frost as a medium to transfer it. Don't be too arrogant, kid. The Mizukage chuckled softly. I can do the same thing. This is the reason why he dared to delay time with the opponent. Under the premise that both sides have mastered similar teleportation abilities, it is impossible to determine the winner in a short time. Garashi couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, compared with those Jinchuriki who only know how to use brute force, Yukage are really much more difficult to deal with. Acting rashly without knowing the enemy's information is a big taboo for ninjas. The Mizukage's voice was indifferent and he mocked back. Now what are you going to do? Under normal circumstances I wouldn't be able to defeat you. However, under the restriction of the bounded domain, it's not impossible for me to defeat you. Shushi smiled calmly. Just like in the previous Chunin exam, he mastered the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and was forced into a dangerous situation by the Yuki. The reason was that the field was too narrow, and the mobility of the Flying Thunder God Jutsu was limited by pure speed. Hashiman Tanku Open. The Dragon Vein Chakra in the Yin Seal was equivalent to the refined Immortal Technique Chakra. This also meant that he did not need to maintain the profound meaning of silence at all times. The explosion of the fifth gate and the buff from Sage Mode caused a layer of visible blue flames to appear around Garashi's body. What is this? The Mizukage's pupils suddenly shrank, and in a blink of an eye, the other side appeared in front of him. Without much time to think, he subconsciously moved to another ice crystal. Just as half of his body emerged from the ice, the layer of blue flame followed him like a shadow. Are you kidding me? The speed. The Mizukage cursed in his heart and quickly retracted his body and moved into another ice crystal. However, the situation was even worse this time. He had only stretched out half of his body when he saw a fist coming at him. He was so scared that he quickly shrank back. Then, the two repeated the process of moving and chasing. In the eyes of the outside world, this scene was inexplicably similar to a game called Whack-A-Mole. And the Mizukage was frantically testing the edge of being hit. However, the Mizukage was worthy of being an antique who survived from the Warring States period. After adapting to the game, the Mizukage became more and more relaxed. So the style of this game changed from Whack-A-Mole to kite flying. In this case, the sixth gate, Gate of View, open. Garashi took a deep breath, and his momentum skyrocketed, and the flame around his body changed to a golden color. After all, he had the experience of controlling Dai's body to feel the seventh gate in advance, so the first 7 gates were no secret to him. The real difficulty was the strength of the body. This was equivalent to learning ninjutsu, but the result was that chakra was not enough. He was only barely able to reach this threshold with the help of Sage Mode's buff. The Mizukage, who was in another dimension, was apparently unaware of the danger. Just as he was about to repeat the previous process, he was sent flying by Shushi's incomparably violent punch. The Mizukage crashed heavily into the enchantment barrier. Puff! How did the speed of this little devil become faster? Even if his body was covered with a layer of ice barrier, which cushioned most of the force, the Mizukage still spat out a big mouthful of blood. Of course, Shushi would not give him any time to rest. He followed up with another punch like a shadow. Again? The Mizukage was scared and quickly moved into the different space. This time he didn't rush out but hid in the space to calm down. Garashi didn't care and calmly rampaged in the barrier. In this mode, his normal attack could destroy the ice crystals from the depths. The Mizukage in the different space felt his heart tighten. He could perceive that a large number of mediums were disappearing. If he waited a few more seconds, he may be lost in the different space forever. However, he did not panic because of this. Instead, he calmly analyzed, this brat's speed is too fast. I have no way to avoid it. Also, it's very risky to keep hiding in this alternate space. The only way is to break the seal as soon as possible. Only in a wide and open space can I really exert the advantage of the magic mirror ice crystals. But where can I break the barrier? The Mizukichi thought to himself, to break the barrier he must use ninjutsu, but no matter how fast he is, it will always take a certain amount of time. For ordinary people, this time may be too late to react, but the enemy is Shimizu Garashi, he absolutely can't have any fluke mentality. This also means that he must be prepared to withstand the other party's attack during this period. Even if I have the ice shield, taking 3 to 5 attacks is the limit, so I must try to break the barrier with only one blow. The Mizukichi radiated his perception to the outside world and carefully observed the 4 people who set up the barrier. Wait, this guy's protective barrier? In his perception, there seemed to be a considerable crack in the barrier where one of them was located. Is it because of the previous destructive attack? Let's break through from here. He didn't worry that this was a flaw deliberately left by the other party, because he can perceive that this crack is real. Moreover, he has also collected information about Garashi's team, and he knows that the other party, except for a little bit of senjutsu, other aspects are simply ordinary. In this case, it is impossible for the wood leaf ninja named Mizuki to stop him. Thinking of this, the Mizukichi no longer hesitated. After putting a layer of ice barrier in advance, he leaned out of the ice. Sure enough, as soon as he appeared, he was greeted by Garashi's storm-like attack. Yes, that's it. The Mizukichi didn't resist, but took advantage of the situation to fly out. He deliberately chose a point in the middle of Garashi and Mizuki's line as a position to be hit. He wanted to shorten the time as much as possible. This game I will win. Ice release, 4 pillars. 4 pillars of ice instantly smashed the built-in barrier protecting Mizuki, and then the remaining force hit him. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.